Chapter 1, The Lightning Prison. I never expected death to take me so soon. I was just a 24-year-old man trying to make something of my life, but here I am, dead, trapped in a prison made of electricity. At first, I thought I was dreaming, but then I remembered what happened to me. I was riding my motorcycle on a rainy day when I suddenly got struck by lightning. My body seized up and, without having control over my motorcycle, it drove off a cliff along with me. Death came on impact to the ground. I couldn't even process it. So this must be the afterlife, a very weird afterlife. Why am I trapped here? It doesn't look or feel like hell or heaven. What are these lightnings anyway? They don't hurt, they don't sting, they do nothing but occasionally flash. It's not just the lightning, this whole space doesn't make sense. There is no physical ground, but I am standing. I can go wherever I want. I can walk up, down, sideways, upside down. There is no concept of gravity or space. It's endless emptiness with lightning everywhere. Looks like the afterlife is just being trapped in this prison, I guess. Suddenly I see a ball of lightning shoot towards me. I dodge it on instinct as it passes by me. It stops a few meters away from me and begins buzzing, releasing a special hymn that calls for me. I want it, I say instinctively. I feel my entire being tense up as I am overwhelmed with the desire to pursue it, and so I do. I run after the ball of lightning. As soon as I get close to it, it becomes faster. No matter how fast I run, I am not able to catch it, but I keep running after it. Days become months, but the game of cat and mouse seems to have no end. But I still keep running after it without feeling tired. My only desire is to acquire the ball of lightning. During these months, I noticed a significant change in myself. I have become fast, extremely fast, but still not fast enough to catch the ball of lightning. I feel like years have gone by and my only action has been running after the ball of lightning. Soon I forget the sense of time as well, but I am still nowhere close to catching the ball of lightning. Well, I guess I need to continue running after it. After an unknown period, I notice something. The lightning that always strikes around me has come to a standstill as I run after the ball of lightning. I have become faster, I think. But that is not all that has changed about me. As I run, I am leaving streaks of lightning behind me. Hope. I feel hope as I realize I can become even faster, so I continue chasing the ball of lightning for who knows how long. My speed doubles, quadruples, octuplets, my speed keeps multiplying, and as it does, I see the ball of lightning get close to me inch by inch. I am just an arm's length away from it. I am just half an arm's length away from it. I am inches away from it. I am millimeters away from it. I have it. My hands finally touch the ball of lightning and I hold on to it as tightly as possible. I stopped running. I have finally stopped running. I look at the ball of lightning in my hand and watch it suddenly melt in my hand and seep into my being. We are now one. An ethereal voice echoes across the empty void. What does that mean? I question but get no reply. After running for so long, I have come to another realization. I have forgotten who I am. Everything about myself and the world I lived in, I have forgotten all of them. Suddenly, the surrounding void begins to collapse, and I begin to fall. The sense of gravity that I had forgotten comes back to me. I scream as I continue to free fall into nothingness, and then everything goes black. Then suddenly my vision starts to return. I hear two people talking, a man and a woman. I hear music playing in the background. My blurry vision starts getting clearer. What are you doing? I hear the female voice ask. He likes this song, the man answers her. How could you possibly know that? The woman questions him as my vision gets much more clear. I checked his Facebook page. I mean, he can hear everything, right? The man says. Auditory functions are the last sensory faculties to degenerate, the woman says. As I was about to get a much clearer view of their faces, they both walk away. I suddenly feel out of breath, shocking me to snap out of my drowsiness and become alert. I gasp and sit up straight. Oh my god, the man seems to have gotten startled by my sudden movement. Where am I? I ask as I look around. I feel alive. I shouldn't be alive. I was dead, trapped in an eternal lightning prison, running for an eternity. He's up, I hear the woman say and approach me. The man calls for someone named Dr. Wells while the woman blinds me with a flashlight. The woman seems to be saying something, but I can't make sense of a word coming out of her mouth as all my senses are being overloaded by a bunch of things, all at the same time. I try to get off the bed, but the woman tries to stop me. Look at me, she keeps repeating her words. Hey, whoa, relax. Everything's okay, man. You're at STAR Labs, the man comes closer and tries to calm me down. Star Labs? Who are you? I ask while still feeling a little overwhelmed. I feel the woman put something in my ear, making me flinch. I'm Cisco Ramon. She's Caitlin Dr. Snow, the man introduces himself and the woman. I turn to look at her, and she shoves a plastic container to my face. I need you to urinate in this, she says. Not this second. Cisco snatches the container away from her, allowing me to have some space. I move away from them trying to collect my thoughts. I can't remember anything. I don't have any recollection of who I am. I forgot everything about myself during my stay in the eternal prison. Suddenly I feel a stinging pain inside my head making me cower in pain. I clutch my head and press it against the bed I was lying on. Are you okay? Talk to me. The woman comes beside me and starts asking me questions, but I am currently occupied by something else. I am being flooded by memories of a life I have never lived, but they feel as if I myself have lived it. Barry Allen, I mouth out. It's the name of this body. I realize what has happened. I am no longer the prisoner of the lightning prison. I am free and I have somehow transmigrated into this body. I am alive again. Yes, Barry Allen, that's your name, the man named Cisco says while resting his hand on my shoulder. I turn to look at him. What happened to me? What's going on? I ask. You were struck by lightning, dude, Cisco says. Lightning? I question. Does this have anything to do with me being trapped in that lightning prison? I turn around and see myself in a reflection. So this is the new me, I think. I don't remember how I looked, so I don't find it weird seeing myself in a stranger's body, plus the memories I have is helping a lot. This body feels like my own. I have broad shoulders and a lean, muscular physique, a very athletic body. From the memories I have, this body was not in this good of a shape before this so-called lightning strike. Lightning causes muscular hypertrophy. I ask. This body can only be achieved through years of consistent hard training. Your muscles should be atrophied, but instead they are in a chronic and unexplained state of cellular regeneration, Caitlin says while feeling up my hard chest and shoulders. Come here. Have a seat, Cisco says, pulling me and making me sit down. You were in a coma, he says. For how long? I ask. 9 months. Welcome back, Mr. Allen, I hear a voice from behind and I turn to see a man in a wheelchair approaching. Chapter 2, The Wrecked Lab. Welcome back, Mr. Allen. We have a lot to discuss, the man in the wheelchair says to Barry. Harrison Wells, Barry says as his memories tell him that he is a huge fan of this man. The man smiles and asks Barry to join in. Would you mind joining me, he asks. Here, put this on. Caitlin hands Barry a Star Lab t-shirt to put on. As he takes the t-shirt from her hand, he catches her ogling his body. Seeing that she got caught staring, she looked away while Barry put on the t-shirt and joined Wells on a walk. It's hard to believe I am here. I have always wanted to meet you face to face, Barry says to Wells. Though he doesn't mean it, he tries to act like the original Barry, as he doesn't want to be suspicious. He can't just tell people that he is another soul now inhabiting this body. Well, you certainly went to great lengths to do it, Dr. Wells says, clearly meant as a joke. STAR Labs has not been operational since FEMA categorized us as a Class 4 hazardous location. He then begins explaining what happened to STAR Labs on the day lightning struck Barry's body. Barry notices a cage as he walks past it with Dr. Wells. He sees the name Grodd written on a steel plate. He wonders what kind of animal was kept inside this cage. 17 people died that night. Many more were injured. Myself amongst them. Barry and Wells arrive at a railing and look below. Barry sees nothing but carnage down there, rebels everywhere. Geez, what happened? Barry asks. 9 months ago, the particle accelerator went online exactly as planned. For 45 minutes, I had achieved my life's dream. And then there was an anomaly. The electron volts became unmeasurable. The ring under us popped. Energy from that detonation was thrown into the sky and that, in turn, seeded a storm cloud. That created a lightning bolt that struck me. Barry finishes his sentence while still trying to wonder if it's all part of some kind of grand scheme. He died because of a lightning strike. This body was struck by lightning. It's all too much of a coincidence. That's right. I was recovering myself when I heard about you, Dr. Wells says. There seems to be some regret in his voice. Barry looks at Dr. Wells, not knowing what to say. The hospital was undergoing unexplainable power outages every time you were going into cardiac arrest, which was actually a misdiagnosis. Because you see you weren't flatlining, Barry. Your heartbeat was moving too fast for the EKG to register it, Dr. Wells explained. But how does that make sense? If my heart was beating so fast, wouldn't I go into cardiac arrest, anyway? Barry asks, finding this whole thing a little confusing. That would be the case, but your heart was not just beating fast, but extremely fast. About 1,000 beats per minute, Dr. Wells explains. That's impossible, Barry says, finding Dr. Wells's statement ridiculous. But he also remembers that he is a transmigrated soul who was trapped in some kind of lightning prison for almost an eternity and now occupies a different body. It is indeed impossible, but that lightning that struck you made you impossible, Dr. Wells says and begins heading back while Barry follows. I don't understand, Barry says. Neither do we, so that is why we brought you here, Dr. Wells says as they arrive in front of a door that opens automatically for them. Now, I'm not the most popular person in town these days, but Detective West and his daughter gave me permission to bring you here, where we were able to stabilize you. Dr. Well continues with his explanation. With the mention of Detective West and his daughter, Barry recalls memories of these two people from his mind. Joe West, and Iris West. The adopted family of Barry. Iris, the name causes some dormant feelings inside Barry to flare up. Barry recalls how his past self was deeply in love with her. But as an eternal soul who stayed sane in that eternal lightning prison, he has great control over his feelings. He is easily able to suppress his sudden anxious and uncertain feelings. He suppresses his want to go and see Iris because, to him, she isn't really that important right now. Barry needs to figure out everything that is happening to him. Iris, yes. She came to see you quite often, Dr. Wells says. She talks a lot. Caitlin approaches from behind and hands Dr. Wells a drink. Also, she's hot, Cisco says, imagining Iris in his mind. Can you inform them about me? Barry asks Dr. Wells. We certainly can. Caitlin, Dr. Wells lets Caitlin handle it. On it, Caitlin says and walks away. While Caitlin informs Detective Wells, why don't we get you prepped up for some tests? Dr. Wells says. Sure, Barry says. Cisco, Dr. Wells asks Cisco to prepare for the test. Barry looks around the lab as Caitlin tries to take some samples of his blood. She struggles a little to puncture his skin as she feels some resistance from it. Caitlin is surprised by this because a hypodermic needle should be sharp enough to puncture skin and muscles very easily. But since it went in and allowed her to draw some of his blood, she didn't bother thinking much of it. While she is taking his blood, Barry can't help but stare at her face. She is beautiful, he thinks. Caitlin notices Barry looking at her and moves her eyes to look at him. What? She asks. Nothing. Barry says, immediately dismissing any of her questions. Caitlin finds his behavior weird but doesn't say anything. She continues collecting all the samples she needs. Chapter 3, He is Barry Allen. Barry has multiple wires probed into his body, a mask around his mouth which all seem to be connected to a much larger machine and a treadmill. Barry was asked to run as the team wanted to observe any physical changes in his body, so he is doing just that. Running is one thing the new Barry knows better than anyone. He had been running for an eternity trying to catch something that was too fast, but he became faster. Barry's feet are taking long strides as he is running fast on the treadmill. The speed reading that the team is getting is very impressive. This is incredible. His running speed is 37 miles per hour. This is significantly faster than humanly possible, Cisco says, surprised by the reading he is getting on his computer. His vitals are extremely steady. Blood oxygen level is normal. He isn't even breaking a sweat. His physical condition is beyond perfect, almost superhuman level. Cisco finishes Caitlin's words with an excited smile on his face. While they are excited about the readings, Dr. Wells seems to be lost in his thoughts as he stares at Barry. That's enough, Mr. Allen, Dr. Wells speaks into a mic which Barry hears through her speakers placed around the room. Barry stops running as Cisco and Caitlin enter the room and begin helping him remove all the probed wires from his body. So how did I do? Barry asks Cisco. Dude, you were awesome. You were running almost twice as fast as Usain Bolt, Cisco said excitedly. And your vitals were all extremely steady. If you push yourself, you could run faster, Caitlin says as she unattached a probe from his chest. They make eye contact for a few seconds without saying a word before Caitlin looks away. That's great news then. I am doing fine, Barry says. Not just fine, you are doing exceptional. I wonder what else can you do? Should we test his strength and see how much he can lift? If he can run almost twice as fast as the fastest man, he should be able to lift almost twice as the strongest. Cisco goes on a tangent as he wants to see what else Barry can accomplish. Here. Caitlin hands Barry a t-shirt to cover himself. Thank you, Barry thanks her and smiles, but she turns away, giving him a cold shoulder. What's with her? Barry asks whispering to Cisco. Don't worry, she is a nice person. She will come around once she gets to know you a little better, Cisco whispers back. What are you two talking about? Caitlin turns back and asks, giving them a questioning look. Nothing, they both say at the same time. Caitlin finds their behavior confusing but doesn't bother delving deeper. She turns her back and continues with her work. Barry puts on the t-shirt and makes his way out of the testing room to find Dr. Wells waiting for him in his wheelchair. Mr. Allen, you are free to leave, but if you experience anything, and I mean anything, please come to us, Dr. Wells says. Will do, Barry nods at him. Barry. Barry. Barry suddenly hears someone call for him frantically. He turns his head towards the direction of the voice and sees a girl enter the lab. Barry, she says with excitement and genuine happiness as she sees Barry standing on his feet. She rushes towards him and hugs him. You are awake, thank God you are awake. Dad and I were so worried, she hugs him tightly. I am fine, Iris, I am fine, Barry hugs and rubs her back, calming her down. She lets go of him and looks at him again to check if he really is okay. Should you even be on your feet right now? She asks. Iris, I am okay. I have never felt better, Barry says. Barry, I watched you die. You kept dying. Your heart kept stopping, Iris says, worried. You don't need to worry, Miss West. Mr. Allen here is in perfect health, Dr. Wells says, stepping in for Barry. Iris looks at Wells and grabs his hands. Thank you so much for helping Barry get better, she thanked him from the bottom of her heart. I was responsible for what happened to Barry, so I had to do what I can, Dr. Wells says. Dad is going to be so happy when he sees you, Iris says, turning back to Barry. Where's Joe? Barry asks. Dad is stuck at the precinct with work. Let's go give him a visit, Iris says. Let's do that, Barry says. Mr. Allen, remember, if anything happens, you come to us, Dr. Wells says. Thank you, Dr. Wells. Barry thanks him and leaves with Iris. Barry is sitting in the passenger seat inside Iris's car as she drives him to the police precinct. Barry is staring out the window, watching the world go past. After being trapped for an eternity, everything that's not red and yellow lightning is a breath of fresh air. He turns to look at Iris and doesn't know what to think of her. Sure, the previous Barry Allen might have had feelings for this girl, but he doesn't feel much. He is now a completely different person. What is it? Iris asks, noticing that Barry is looking at her. Nothing. I can't believe it's been 9 months. Barry says, lying to avoid telling what he is truly thinking. I am so happy that you are finally awake. I don't know what I would have done, what Dad would do if we had lost you, Iris says. Barry smiles. Though he doesn't feel the same love for Iris as the previous Barry Allen, he is still happy to know that there are people here who care for him. Sure, he might not be the Barry Allen that they know and care for, but he has taken his place. Barry doesn't remember his past life. Everything he has going on for him now is inherited from the previous Barry Allen. This is now his life. He is Barry Allen. I am here now, Barry says with a smile. Iris smiles back and goes back to concentrating on driving. Barry once again begins looking out of the window when he sees a bird flying. And he sees something weird. Chapter 4, Am I just fast or did the world slow down? Barry sees a bird flying in the air, and as he concentrates on the bird, he sees that bird slow down, and by slowing down, it doesn't mean that it starts flying slowly. Barry sees the bird's wings flap extremely slowly, as if time itself is slowing down around him. Barry's eyes move around frantically to check his surroundings, and he notices that it's not just that bird, everything is moving extremely slowly. Every car in the street is moving at a turtle's pace. He turns to look at Iris and sees her moving extremely slowly as well. And then suddenly everything returns to normal, Iris returns to normal, the cars on the streets return to normal, and the bird outside is flying at its usual speed. What the fuck was that? Barry questions. He doesn't realize that he just perceived time at a different speed, as he has never experienced anything like this before. Something wrong? Iris asks, noticing Barry's frantic movements. Did you see that? Barry asks. See what? Iris asks, confused. Nothing. Barry says, seeing the confusion on Iris's face. She didn't see it, Barry thinks. Iris parks her car right outside the police precinct. Come on, Barry, Iris says as she excitedly gets out of her car. She seems more excited than me. Barry smiles and follows Iris inside. Barry and Iris walk into the police precinct and see Joe talking to someone. Dad. Iris calls Joe. Joe turns to look at his caller and sees his daughter, but then his eyes fall on the person right behind her. Barry. Joe breathes out as he is shocked by what he is seeing. Barry, he questions again. Joe, it's me, Barry says and smiles at him. Joe walks up to him and gives him a very tight hug. I am so glad you are awake, he says. Me too, Joe, Barry says. Oh, you scared the hell out of us, kid, Joe says, and legs go smiling ear to ear. Yeah, that was quite the nap you took there, baby face, and you still look 12, an old bald officer comes over to greet Barry before walking away. You look okay, but are you really? Joe asks, placing his hand on Barry's shoulder, still worried about him. I have never felt better, Barry answers. That's good to hear, Joe says, smiling. Detective West, we've got a 5.15 in progress at Gold City Bank. 2 dead, a female officer informs Joe. Storm's really picking up on the south side, she continues before walking away. I'm sorry, Barry. I got to run, Joe says, walking away from Barry. Do you need my help? Barry asks, seeing that Joe might need it. No, you take it easy. There'll be plenty for you to do once you settle in. Joe says firmly. Let's go, partner. He calls for his partner. Hey, Alan. Glad to see you, Joe's partner walks over and greets Barry. Ah. Eddie. Thanks, Barry says, remembering this man's name. Eddie then looks at Iris and lingers on her for a second. Hey Iris, he greets her. Detective, you should go. My dad doesn't like to be kept waiting, Iris says, being overly stern than usual, which Barry picks up on. Eddie gives her an awkward nod before addressing Barry once again. Glad you're back, he says, pats Barry's shoulder, and walks away. What was that? Barry asks, turning to Iris. What was what? Iris immediately gets defense. It's like you were trying to be mean to him, but you really are not, Barry says. I don't know what you are talking about, Iris says, getting a little flustered. Iris, I have known you for a long time. I know when you are acting weird, Barry says, and he is not lying. His head is filled with memories of Iris. He knows how she acts and behaves around people. It's really nothing, Iris stands her ground. Okay. Barry says before he turns to look around and sees a photo of a police officer inside a glass cabinet. He knows this face, it belongs to Joe's previous partner. The night of the explosion, Clyde Martin shot and killed Kerr. Martin and his brother died trying to escape. Their plane crashed, Iris walks over and informs him. Barry looks at the photo and feels a little pity. From his memories, he could tell that Kerr was a good man. Iris, got a minute, the same old officer who called Barry a baby face calls her and she leaves. Hey, Barry. Good to see you, an officer greets Barry as he is handling some criminal with his partner, when Barry suddenly sees the criminal reach for the officer's gun. And just like before, everything before Barry's eyes starts to slow down and finally come to a stop. It's happening again, Barry thinks and quickly looks around. Everyone inside the precinct is frozen in time, well, it looks like it, but he can see that they are moving extremely slowly. The entire world around him has slowed down. The first thing Barry does is walk over toward the criminal and lightly push him against his back before returning to his previous spot. The world returns to normal speed before his eyes and he sees the criminal's body smack against the desk. This catches the officers off guard, and they are forced to tighten their hold on the criminal and drag him away. Screw you, he shouts, having his ass dragged away. Am I just fast or did the world slow down? Barry questions. You okay? Iris walks over and asks Barry. I am fine. I need to be somewhere else right now. But I'll call you tonight, all right? Barry says, containing some of his excitement as he leaves the precinct in a hurry. Barry walks out of the back door and enters a back alley. He feels his entire body vibrating at a very fast rate. He lifts his hands and sees it vibrating so fast that it looks like a blur. It's just like when I was inside that lightning prison, Barry murmurs to himself as he forces his hand to stop vibrating. There is only one way to figure this out, Barry says, smiling with excitement. Chapter 5, Super Speed. There is only one way to find out, Barry says, digging his heels into the ground. He takes a running stance. Lightning flashes in his eyes as the world slows around him once again and then he begins running. Fast would be an understatement if someone described Barry right now. Barry is moving so fast that he can't be seen with the naked eye. As he runs, he leaves behind a streak of white lightning. Barry smiles as he feels lightning coursing through his entire being. The faster he runs, the more he feels it. He doesn't stop, he continues running. Even at his speed, every turn he takes is extremely sharp. It is as if the world around him is his oyster. The laws of physics don't seem to apply to him at all. None of this makes sense or follows the laws of physics, but it feels damn exhilarating, Barry thinks. Even when he was trapped inside his lightning prison, running faster than the speed of light, he didn't feel like this. Having a body really does make a difference, Barry thinks as he enjoys the sensation of overwhelming speed. I need to head to STAR Labs, Barry says to himself and heads there. STAR Labs _ Dr. Wells is inside a closed room looking at a holographic projection of a newspaper from the future. He removes his glasses with a serious look on his face. The future has changed. He murmurs to himself. Dr. Wells, Barry Allen is here. Suddenly, a female holographic face appears and shows a video of Barry coming to a halt right in front of STAR Labs. It's about time, Dr. Wells says, putting back his glasses and sitting down in his wheelchair before he drives out of the closed room. Barry stops right outside STAR Labs and sees the world go back to normal. He chuckles as realizing that his new life will be far more exciting than he ever hoped for. Barry walks into STAR Labs and finds Cisco and Caitlin arguing about someone. They seem to be very passionate about whatever they are talking about. Guys! Barry calls for them, stopping their argument as they turn to look at him. Barry. Caitlin acknowledges his presence and wonders why he is here. Same with Cisco. Where's Dr. Wells? Barry asks. I am right here, Mr. Allen, Dr. Wells drives in on his wheelchair. You are back early. So, did something happen? Dr. Wells asks. Guys, I can run very fast, Barry says. We know. We already told you with enough effort you can run faster. Your body is almost superhuman, Cisco says, as if stating the obvious. No, you are not getting it. When I run, the world around me slows down to a standstill. I have super speed. Cisco completes Barry's words with wide eyes. He immediately gets off his chair and approaches Barry. That's impossible. Even though your body is now stronger, it still cannot handle the amount of G-force it would generate when moving that fast. You also need to factor in the large amount of friction that would generate because of the atmosphere, Caitlin chimes in. Guys, I am not lying. Check this out, Barry says and brings his hand forward. Caitlin and Cisco look at his hand, which suddenly starts vibrating at extreme speed, making it look like a blur. They both can't believe their eyes. They look at each other and back at Barry. This is freaking awesome. Cisco says. Looks like that lightning strike did make you the impossible, Mr. Allen, Dr. Wells says. Dr. Wells, are you seeing this? This changes everything. We literally have a superhuman in our midst, Cisco says, still burning with excitement. We need to see you in action, Mr. Allen, and for that, we need a big runway, Dr. Wells says. Ferris Air Testing Facility. Cisco immediately points out. Team, get the van ready. We are going to the Ferris Air Testing Facility, Dr. Wells says. On it, both Cisco and Caitlin immediately get to action and start moving around. And what should I do? Barry asks as he looks around. Let's get to the air testing facility before you do anything, Mr. Allen, Dr. Wells suggests. That. Yes, I will just wait, Barry says, swinging his hands awkwardly. The team arrives at the Ferris A testing facility and gets to work immediately. Cisco and Caitlin work together and set up a working station while Barry observes everything with interest. Everything feels so new to him after being trapped inside that lightning prison for so long. Here, put this one, Cisco comes over and hands Barry a box. "What's this?" Barry asks. "Just something I put together in a hurry. It will monitor you when you run," Cisco says. "Okay," Barry says, looking at the very questionable box. He enters the van and puts on the suit. "You don't really believe he can run that fast, do you?" Caitlin asks Dr. Wells. "Well, I believe anything is possible, and in a few minutes maybe you will too," Dr. Wells says to her. "How does it fit?" Cisco asks as he sees Barry walk out wearing the ridiculous outfit Cisco put together for him. A chunky red helmet, goggles, tight fighting spandex, knee pads, and a pair of red running shoes. "It's a little snug," Barry says as he feels particularly tight around his crotch, especially after all the muscle and tissue growth his body went through. Luckily, he doesn't look as ridiculous as he would have if not for his lean and aesthetic body. The tight spandex suit is doing a great job showing off his new lean and muscular frame. "At least you will be moving so fast, no one will see you," Cisco says with a grin. "That surely helps, but why all red?" Barry asks as he has more red on his than Santa Claus. "I can already envision it, man, you in a red superhero suit." "You need to trust my vision," Cisco says. Barry can't help but smile, influenced by Cisco's personality. "So, are you ready?" Cisco asks. "I think I am," Barry says, stretching his leg a little to the side to free the nuts. "Dr. Wells will be monitoring your energy output, and Caitlin, your vitals," Cisco gives a brief rundown to Barry. "What do you do?" Barry asks. "I make the toys, my man." "Check it," Cisco says and pulls out a gadget with a lightning-shaped design. This is a two-way headset with a camera I modified. Typically designed to combat battlefield impulse noise, or in your case potential sonic booms. "Which would be awesome," Cisco says and chuckles. He then proceeds to remove the red helmet from Barry's head and walks away to attach those two-way headsets. Caitlin approaches Barry to calibrate the band that goes around his body, right under his chest. Barry can't help but admire how beautiful she is once again as she fiddles with her tablet. "What?" she asks, noticing that Barry is looking at her. "Nothing. I just thought you should smile a little more," Barry says. Caitlin meets Barry's eyes as she brushes her hair to the back of her ear due to it being very windy. "My once promising career in bioengineering is over. My boss is in a wheelchair for life. The explosion that put you in a coma also killed my fiancé. So my blank expression kind of feels like the way to go," Caitlin says, immediately killing the vibe. Barry feels pity for the woman in front of her. "I am sorry," Barry says. Caitlin looks at Barry and sees that he is genuinely sorry for her, and now she is feeling guilty for coming off so cold to him. "Excuse me," she says and walks away. Chapter 6, A Core Memory. "Mr. Allen, while I am extremely eager to determine your full range of abilities, I do caution restraint," Dr. Wells comes closer and advises Barry. "Yet." Barry nods his head and takes position, placing his feet on the starting blocks. He looks back at Dr. Wells and Cisco and sees that they are ready. "Here I go," Barry says and once again enters a state in which time slows down for him. The world slows down for him. White lightning flashes in his eyes and some around his body, and with one strong push from his legs, he shoots forward. Dr. Wells, Caitlin, and Cisco immediately become the victims of the shockwave that Barry generates as he begins his run. Cisco falls on his ass while Dr. Wells and Caitlin are pushed back from their original spot. Cisco can't stop smiling while Caitlin is bewildered as they see Barry just zoom away at incredible speed, leaving a streak of lightning behind him. "He just passed 450 miles per hour, Cisco says. "It's not possible," Caitlin says as she puts down her binoculars. She couldn't see anything but a blur. Dr. Wells has a poker face as he watches Barry run. "He is faster than I expected," he thinks, but no one is wiser to his thoughts. As Barry continues to run faster, he sees the lightning flashing around him, and then suddenly, a core memory that has been etched into his body's mind flashes before Barry's eyes. The memory of his 11-year-old self watching his mother being trapped inside a storm of lightning, and inside the lightning, a man in yellow. This momentary distraction is enough for Barry to lose focus as he crashes hard into barrels filled with water at 600 miles per hour. Fuck! Barry yelps in pain as he feels a stinging sensation in his arm. Seeing that Barry crashed, Caitlin and Cisco immediately ran toward him. Are you okay? Caitlin asks as soon as she gets closer to him. My arm, it stings, Barry says, holding onto his arm. Let me check, Caitlin says, and takes an X-ray of his arm with her tablet. Let me help you up. Cisco helps Barry get back to his feet as they make their way back to the van. We should head back to the lab immediately, Caitlin suggests. The team makes their way back to the lab in a hurry. Barry is taken to the lab and is immediately placed under observation. Guys, the pain, it's gone. Before Caitlin could even begin any tests, Barry says, twisting his hand in the air. Caitlin approaches him and scans his hand once again, worried that Barry's nerves might have separated, leading to him not feeling any pain. But as she looks at the scan, she can't believe her eyes. She immediately takes another scan of his arm and gets the same result. How long has it been since you felt any pain? Caitlin asks. I felt pain only for like the first few minutes after the crash, then it was gone, Barry says. He thought he just twisted his muscle or something when he crashed back then, seeing that he was not hurting much. Why, what happened? Barry asks, looking at Caitlin. It looks like you had a hairline fracture in your distal radius. Caitlin shows him an X-ray of his arm in which he can see the hairline fracture. Had? Barry questions. She then slides her finger to show another X-ray of his arm. It's healed. In a few minutes, if we go with your words, Caitlin says, bewildered by how fast Barry's fracture healed. Though it was not a serious fracture, it would have still taken 6 to 8 weeks for it to heal. For his injury, to heal within minutes, it's a miracle. How is that even possible? Barry asks. We don't know, yet, Caitlin says. You really need to learn how to stop, Cisco teases. What happened out there? You were moving pretty well, and then something caused you to lose focus, Dr. Wells asks, getting closer to Barry. Barry pauses as he recalls his memory. This particular memory seems to hold a lot of weight, enough to influence the new Barry as well. I started remembering something, Barry says. Dr. Wells gives him a questioning look, trying to pry deeper. When I was 11, my mother was murdered. His words immediately make the people inside the room uncomfortable, especially Caitlin, because of the previous interaction between them. It was late. A sound woke me up. I came downstairs, and I saw what looked like a ball of lightning. Inside the lightning, there was a man. He killed my mom. They arrested my dad. He's still sitting in Iron Heights for her murder. Everyone, the cops, the shrinks, they all told me what I saw was impossible. But what if the man who killed my mom was like me? As Barry asks this question, he can feel the tears building up in his eyes. Though a foreign soul in a new body, the emotion he is feeling from this memory is beyond any other memory. Now the new Barry wants to find out who killed his mother. He can see the resemblance between himself and the man in his memory. Someone moving fast and generating lightning around them. Well, I think I can say unequivocally you are one of a kind, Dr. Wells says, and his words do make sense. Barry got his powers due to the particle accelerator exploding, while his mother was killed when he was just 11 years old. Dr. Wells puts his hand on Barry's leg to provide comfort before rolling away. Barry gets off the chair and tries to wipe his tears with his hands. Here. Caitlin hands him over her handkerchief. Barry smiles at her and takes it. I am sorry to hear about your mother, Caitlin says, placing her hand on his shoulder. Thanks. It's been 14 years since her death. Barry says. You must have been very close to her, Caitlin says with sadness in her voice. Barry looks deep into his memories and finds all kinds of great memories he has of himself with his mother, which makes him smile. She was definitely the person Barry loved the most, which is why even the new Barry feels emotional when remembering her. Yes. Yes, we were. Also, thanks for this, Barry says, showing the handkerchief in his hand. You can return it later, Caitlin says and leaves Barry alone. I need some coffee. Do you guys need anything? Barry asks. No need. I'm good. They both reject his offer. Then. I will meet you guys later, Barry says and leaves. Chapter 7, He is just like me. Now that Barry has super speed, he doesn't need a mode of transport. His speed will allow him to travel to any part of the central city. Barry zooms away at super speed and within minutes stops in a back alley to not get noticed by people for suddenly appearing out of nowhere. Barry smiles, as moving at super speed will never stop being exciting. He walks into Jitters, the coffee shop, and immediately notices two familiar faces kissing. Well, this solves everything, Barry thinks, relieved as the lingering feelings that his body has for Iris can now disappear as he sees Iris kissing Joe's new partner, Eddie. He can reason with his own lingering feelings to move on, which shouldn't be that hard. As Iris pulls away from the kiss, Eddie sees Barry and is caught off guard seeing him. Seeing the look on Eddie's face, Iris turns around and sees Barry too. Looks like her secret is out. Babe, let me talk to him, Iris says, immediately turning to Eddie before approaching Barry. Barry. Iris says, trying to explain her situation, but sees Barry smiling ecstatically. I knew something was going on between you two when I noticed your weird behavior back at the precinct, Barry says. Yes. I am dating Eddie. You can't tell Dad, she says. I won't, but the truth will come out one way or the other. It's best if he learns it from your mouth, Barry says. I know, but not now. Promise me you won't say anything to Dad, Iris makes him promise. Okay, I promise, Barry promises, seeing Iris's desperation. So, you and Eddie. How did it start? Barry asks as he looks at Eddie. As his and Eddie's eyes meet, Eddie smiles awkwardly and gives Barry a little wave before looking away, embarrassed. Barry waves back. Seeing this, Iris turns around to look at Eddie and smiles before looking back at Barry. When you were in the hospital, Eddie covered my father's shifts so that we could both be with you. I thanked him with a cup of coffee and things just kind of happened. And it's good, Iris says with a big smile showing how happy she is in this relationship. Since Iris is one of the few people that cares for him, Barry is happy to see her happy. Well, I guess if you are happy, then I am happy, Barry says. I knew you would understand, Iris says and gives him a hug. But promise me you will inform Joe about it before he suspects anything. I don't want him to pester me about it. I won't be able to hide it from him for much longer, Barry says. Don't worry, I will tell him when the time is right, Iris says. Suddenly, Barry hears police sirens blaring at a distance. I will leave you two lovebirds alone, Barry says and runs away at normal speed while Iris watches. She turns and sees Eddie approaching. What happened? Iris asks. I need to go, suspect in a runaway vehicle, Eddie says, kissing Iris before taking off. Once Barry is away from everyone's sight, he enters super speed and quickly catches up to the police chase. He sees the police struggling to catch a black car. One of the police vehicles goes out of control and crashes into a wall, causing a blockade, and allowing the black car to drive away. Barry zooms past the police car and immediately catches up to the black car. The car is motionless before his eyes. Barry looks inside and sees a face he didn't expect to see at all. He is confused. This man should be dead, but he is here, alive, right in front of him, trying to escape from the cops. Barry grabs the car door handle and tries to open it, but it's locked from inside. With no other option, Barry lightly taps on the car window with super speed, immediately shattering it into pieces. He then enters the car through the broken window. The man driving the car is shocked by the sudden appearance of Barry inside the car, but he is quick to recover. The man immediately goes for the gun that is in his holster. Barry sees this action taking place in slow motion. This man poses no threat to Barry at all. With super speed, Barry reaches for the gun and takes it away from the man's grasp. Time returns to normal, and the man is shocked to see his gun in Barry's hand. Now panicked, the man aggressively steers the steering wheel, trying to throw Barry off guard, but the man overdoes it. The car takes an extreme turn and flips. Barry enters super speed again, and everything slows down. He immediately gets out of the car and stops a few meters away from the car, which is now up in the air. Time returns to normal and Barry watches the car crash and slide a few meters. I should probably leave before the police get here, Barry thinks when he sees the man get out of the crashed car, barely injured. Wait, how is this possible? Barry thinks. Martin! Barry calls out the dead man. Clyde Martin stops in his tracks to turn and look at Barry. As their eyes meet, Clyde suddenly lifts his hands and begins summoning fog around him. Barry is shocked. He is just like me, Barry thinks as he watches Clyde Martin disappear into the fog. You are not getting away, Barry thinks and runs into the fog. He then runs back and forth in and out of the fog, creating bursts of winds that completely disperse the fog. But as the fog disappears, Barry can't find Clyde Martin anywhere. There's no way he is faster than me, Barry thinks and looks around and then up to see Clyde Martin floating as he generates gusts of wind out of his hands, allowing him to fly. Looks like he is going to get away. Barry thinks defeated as he watches Clyde fly away high up into the air, turning into a small dot before completely disappearing from his sight. I need to inform Dr. Wells and the team, Barry says when he suddenly hears panic honking. And like a flight or fright response, Barry enters super speed again and sees the world slow down. He sees a car about to crash into the flipped car. Luckily for the driver, he is in the vicinity of the fastest man alive. Barry runs towards the out-of-control car. He smashes the car's window and pulls out the driver before the car drives into the flipped black car. He runs the panicked driver to the side of the road before getting away from there. Barry watches from the sidelines as the police finally arrive at the scene. Chapter 8, Stepping Up. Joe arrives at the scene and sees 2 wrecked cars and a bunch of debris. The police have already sealed off the area. He sees Barry and approaches him. Barry, when did you get here? Joe asks. Just when the crash happened, Barry says. Are you okay? I told you to rest and not bother about work right now, Joe says. I was already here when the accident happened, Barry says. So, did you see anything? Joe asks. Well, it might sound crazy, but I think the guy that was running away was Clyde Martin, Barry says. Clyde Martin is dead, Barry, Joe says. I don't know, Joe, the guy I saw crawl out of that car looked just like Clyde Martin, Barry says. Are you sure? You weren't hallucinating, right? After all, you just got out of a coma, Joe says. I know what I saw. It was Martin or someone who looked like Martin, Barry says. Did you see which way did he run off to? Joe asks. Well, this might sound crazy, but he didn't run off. A thick fog came in all of a sudden and he disappeared, Barry says. He doesn't tell Joe the whole truth because he doesn't think Joe will believe him. Joe, you are not gonna believe this. Eddie walks up to them and shows Joe a sketch. We got the eyewitness sketch of the robber for the bank job. If I didn't know better, I'd say that's Clyde Martin, Eddie says as he takes out a picture of Clyde Martin and compares it to the sketch. It's impossible. He's dead, right? Eddie asks. I told you, Barry says. Joe looks up at Barry and back at the sketch. Fine, you should head back home and rest. Eddie and I will handle this, Joe says to Barry. Barry leaves the crime scene and immediately zooms toward STAR Labs. With his speed, it takes him a few minutes to reach STAR Labs. Barry walks into the cortex of the STAR Labs and finds Dr. Wells, Caitlin, and Cisco, all three together, talking. "Mr. Allen, you are back once again. What is it this time?" Dr. Wells asks. "I wasn't the only one affected by the particle accelerator explosion, was I?" Barry asks. Dr. Wells looks at his team and back at Barry. "We don't know for sure," he says. "You said the city was safe. That there was no residual danger. But that's not true, so what really happened that night?" Barry asks, as he wants to get to the bottom of this. "Well, the accelerator went active. We all felt like heroes and then, it all went wrong," Dr. Wells says and pulls up a graphical representation of the particle accelerator exploding. "The dimensional barrier ruptured, unleashing unknown energies into our world. Antimatter, dark energy, X-elements," Dr. Wells says. "So, all these theories are real?" Barry asks. "Your existence is proof of them being real," Dr. Wells says. He then pulls up another graphical representation of the city with multiple hotspots that keep expanding. "We mapped the dispersion throughout and around Central City. Though we have no way of knowing exactly what or who was exposed. We've been searching for other metahumans like yourself," Dr. Wells says. "Metahumans?" Barry questions. "That's what we're calling them," Caitlin chimes in, telling Barry. "Well, I just encountered one today. He's a bank robber, and he can somehow control the weather," Barry says. "This just keeps getting cooler," Cisco says, excited over the possibility of more metahumans existing. "Well, not that cool. A man almost died. Luckily I was fast enough to pull him out of his car before he crashed," Barry says, wiping the smile off Cisco's face and making him realize that people's lives are at stake. "So Martin must have gotten his powers the same way I did from the storm cloud. And he is causing a lot of trouble. People's lives are in danger. So what are we going to do to stop him?" Barry asks, as he gets a little serious. "Barry, that's a job for the police," Dr. Wells says. "No, it's not. You didn't see what I saw. This man can literally control the weather. What are the police going to do against something they don't even understand?" Barry says. "You cannot just sit here and watch while these metahumans that you created cause havoc in the city and put people's lives at risk. Every person who has already been hurt and will be hurt in the future is your responsibility. So it's important that we do something to stop them. I need to do something to stop Clyde Martin before he hurts more people." Barry says. "What's important is you," Dr. Wells says with a commanding tone, trying to get his point across. "I lost everything. I lost my company. I lost my reputation. I lost my freedom. And then you fractured your arm, and it healed within minutes. Inside your body could be a map to a whole new world, genetic therapies, vaccines, medicines, and treasures, buried deep within your cell, and we cannot risk losing everything because you want to go out and play hero," Wells says, raising his voice. "That's where you are wrong. I never said I wanted to play hero, and my life is no more important than any other person out there in the city. Everybody out there deserves to be safe just as much as me. And now, with the powers I have, I can do that," Barry says. "Barry, you are just a young man who was struck by lightning. You might cause more harm than good, trying to save these people. None of us here fully understand how your powers work. I am not willing to take any more unnecessary risks," Dr. Wells says firmly. Seeing that he is not getting anywhere with Dr. Wells, he turns to look at Caitlin and Cisco, but they have nothing to say for Barry. He can see that they want to help as much as he does. It's written all over their faces, but they work for Dr. Wells, and his words seem to be final. "I get where you are coming from. Yes, I know very little about my powers and how they work, but I also cannot sit back and watch innocent people get hurt. I am doing this whether you help me or not. Someone needs to step up, Barry says, walking away from the cortex and zooming away from STAR Labs. Chapter 9, Superhero Suit. Barry arrives at the police precinct and heads to his lab. He then immediately begins looking through every strange unsolved case from the past 9 months, and there are a lot of them. After a while, he notices a lot of unexplained deaths and missing people in these reports, factoring in everything collected from the crime scenes. Barry is certain that metahumans are involved. Even with my speed, I won't be able to track all of them down. I really need help. Barry says and thinks of people who might help. At the top of his mind, he can only think of 2 right now. Barry looks out and sees it's already nighttime. I need to talk with Caitlin and Cisco one more time and convince them to help me, Barry thinks and starts collecting all the files he can gather that could be related to metahumans. Barry returns to STAR Labs once again and finds Caitlin and Cisco. Barry. What's this? Caitlin asks, seeing the 2 boxes that Barry has brought. You need to look at these. I've been going over unsolved cases from the past 9 months, and there's been a sharp increase in unexplained deaths and missing people. Your metahumans have been busy, Barry says. Caitlin and Cisco look worried seeing all these cases. Now, I'm not blaming you. I know you didn't mean for any of this to happen. I know you all lost something. Barry's statement stings a little, especially for Caitlin, as she did lose the man she loved because of the explosion. But I need your help to catch Martin, and anyone else out there like him, so that people don't experience the same things you guys did. But I can't do it without you guys, Barry says. Caitlin and Cisco look at each other and they seem to have already made up their mind. They are after all good people, and they care. They nod at each other, agreeing to help Barry catch these metahumans. If we're gonna do this, I have something that might help, Cisco says, looking at Barry. He has that proud smile on his face, which indicates he has just the right thing for the job. Come with me, Cisco says and guides Barry and Caitlin to his workshop. Something I've been playing with, Cisco says as he turns around a swivel table and presents a red full-body suit to Barry and Caitlin. Designed to replace the turnouts firefighters traditionally wear. I thought if STAR Labs could do something nice for the community, maybe people wouldn't be so angry at Dr. Wells anymore, Cisco says. How exactly is this gonna help me? Barry asks. It's made of a reinforced tripolymer. It's heat and abrasive resistant, so it should withstand your moving at high velocity speeds, and the aerodynamic design should help you maintain control. Plus, it has built-in sensors, so we can track your vitals and stay in contact with you from here, Cisco explains with a smile on his face. He looks very proud of his creation. Thanks. Now how do we find Martin? Barry asks. I retasked STAR Labs satellite to track meteorological abnormalities over Central City, Caitlin speaks up with a tablet in her hand. Barry and Cisco get closer to look at it. We just got a ping. Atmospheric pressure dropped 20 millibars in a matter of seconds. I've tracked it to a farm just west of the city, Caitlin says, showing on the map. You guys are awesome, thank you, Barry says. No, thank you for allowing us to help, Cisco says, and Caitlin nods her head. At a farm west of the city, Joe arrives with his partner Eddie. I'm not saying Martin is alive, but if he was, this is the last place him and his brother hid out, Joe says and surveys his surroundings. Let's go, he says, pulling his gun out of its holster and making his way to the barn while Eddie follows. As they step foot inside the barn, they are immediately alerted by a loud clanking noise. They raise their guns and approach the sound, and when they walk in deeper, they see a man sitting on a rusted chair. Martin! Joe calls to confirm his identity as his back is turned to them. On your feet, hands on your head, Joe orders. You got me, Martin says. Eddie signals Joe to approach Martin while he has his gun pointed at him. Joe puts his gun in his holster and begins approaching Martin. The night of the storm, after STAR Labs blew, after our plane went down, and I woke up on the ground alive, when I saw what I can do, I understood. I am God, Martin says, being an edgelord. Shut the hell up, Joe says, finding Martin's ramblings stupid. Martin gets on his feet. Turn around, Eddie orders. When suddenly fog starts to roll in and the wind gets intense. Joe and Eddie are shocked seeing this. Martin suddenly brings his hands down, creating a powerful burst of wind, and it sends both Joe and Eddie flying backwards. Eddie is knocked out cold while Joe is in shock after seeing and experiencing what just happened. Do you think that your guns can stop God? The edgelord questions Joe. Why in the hell would God need to rob banks? Joe stays real and asks the important questions. You're right. I've been thinking too small, Martin says, inspired to do something more from Joe's provocation. Martin spreads his hands and controls the air around him and turns it into a massive tornado. Seeing this, Joe realized he fucked up by unnecessarily provoking a man that can literally control the weather. The tornado shatters through the barn's roof. Joe quickly collects himself and rushes towards Eddie to drag him away from danger. The tornado shatters through the barn and continues to grow in size and increase in speed as it slowly starts making its way toward the city. Chapter 10, Breaking the Sound Barrier. Joe is still trying to process what is happening. He just saw a dead man come back to life and now he can somehow conjure tornadoes at his whim. He feels the air getting fast and sees debris getting flung around violently. Joe then sees a large board of wood coming right at him. His eyes widen as he thinks this is it, he is going to die, when he suddenly sees a streak of white lighting hit the board and move it away, saving him from getting crushed by it. Joe's attention, now on the board of wood, stares at it with disbelief. How did a blot of lightning change the direction of the wood board in an instant? Then a man in a red suit emerges as he tosses the wood board to the side. The fuck is happening? Joe questions inwardly. Barry. This thing's getting closer. Wind speeds are 200 miles per hour and increasing. Barry, can you hear me? Barry hears Cisco's voice in his ear through the headphones attached to the suit. Yes, loud and clear, Barry answers back. If it keeps up, this could become an F5 tornado, Cisco warns. But it's headed toward the city. How do I stop it? Barry asks as he stares at the raging tornado. He isn't getting any answer from the team. What if I unravel it? Barry comes up with an idea and asks the team. How the hell are you going to do that? Caitlin asks. I'll run around it in the opposite direction, cut off its legs, Barry says. He'd have to clock 700 miles per hour to do that, Cisco says, looking at Caitlin, wondering if Barry can run that fast. It might be dangerous, Barry. We don't know if your body can handle such speed, Caitlin says. 700 miles per hour. Guys, I think I can do it. Back at the airstrip, I had much more in me, I have to try, Barry says, confident in his speed. He turns to look at Joe and sees him staring back at him in bewilderment. Barry enters super speed, time slows down around him as he runs toward the tornado. As Barry reaches the foot of the tornado, he begins running circles around it in the opposite direction, picking up incredible speed. Joe gets back to his feet by supporting himself with his car as he watches the man in the red suit run circles around the tornado. He sees the streaks of white lightning trail behind the man in the red suit, who is just a blur now. And at this moment, Joe can only think of one thing. The words coming out of an 11-year-old boy who told him about a man inside the lightning storm that killed his mother. Barry easily hits the 600 miles and continues to run faster. Back at STAR Labs, both Caitlin and Cisco are amazed by how fast Barry is running. He, the suit is holding up, Cisco says, impressed by his suit. Barry, you need to run faster, Caitlin instructs him. I can do it, Barry answers back as he feels the lightning coursing through his veins, electrifying his whole being, telling him to embrace this moment, dig his feet into the ground, and run faster. With an excited smile on his face, Barry runs even faster. Boom! He just broke the sound barrier. Cisco says, amazed. Barry hits speeds of 800 miles per hour, just a little over Mach 1, and once he hits this speed, the tornado stands no chance. The amount of force and energy that Barry created easily disperses the tornado. Martin, who is controlling the tornado from the inside, is shocked as the tornado dissipates in an instant. He turns to look at the man responsible for stopping him. Barry stops and catches his breath. His face is out in the open as his mask seems to have been blown off from his speed. "It's you, from this morning," Martin says as he recognizes Barry's face. He then pulls out his gun and aims it at Barry. "I didn't think there was anyone else like me," Martin says. "Nah, we are not the same." "You're a murderer," Barry says. Martin grins and is ready to pull the trigger. Gunshots. Barry sees 2 bullets fly past him and hit Martin in the chest. He falls down, dead. Barry turns around and sees Joe running towards him. "Barry!" He hears Caitlin's voice in his ear, checking in on him. "It's over." "I did it," Barry says. Cisco and Caitlin smile as they manage to save the day. "You really did it," Barry hears Dr. Wells in his ear. He just entered the cortex and saw Barry take down Martin. "Dr. Wells," Barry is surprised to hear him. "You were right, Barry. I am responsible for all of this. So many people have been hurt because of me, and when I looked at you, all I saw was another potential victim of my hubris, but you, Mr. Allen, have shown me that we can help the people of Central City. Thank you, Barry," Dr. Wells says. Cisco and Caitlin look at him and smile, happy that he is finally on board with them. Joe arrives in front of Barry, worried, but he can't utter a single word. Everything that just happened was beyond anything he could have ever imagined. The sun is up, and the police have already flooded the scene. There are tapes everywhere and officers at work. Barry and Joe are leaning against his car. Joe still taking it all in. "What you can do?" "It was the lightning bolt," Joe asks. "More or less," Barry answers. "I'm sorry, Barry," Joe says, shaking his head. "I'm sorry. I didn't believe you. And I called you crazy for chasing the impossible, but you really did see something that night your mom died, and your dad is innocent," Joe says. "I don't blame you, Joe. No one would have believed me. Even I started to wonder if it was all in my head," Barry says. "I need you to promise me something," Joe says, getting in front of Barry. "I don't want you telling Iris about anything you can do, any of it. I want her safe. Promise me," Joe says. "Don't worry, Joe, I understand. I won't tell her," Barry promises. Chapter 11, I Will Get Back Home. Barry returns to his small apartment and jumps on his bed. He closes his eyes and feels his bed's familiar yet not so familiar embrace. Even though he has spent the last 24 hours running around at super speed, saving people and fighting a supervillain, he doesn't feel tired at all. In fact, he feels more energetic than ever. As if the lightning inside his body will fuel him with energy for eternity. Ever since he woke up from his coma, he has not had the time to process everything that has happened till now. First is his experience chasing something for an eternity, then he opens his eyes and begins experiencing a life he has never lived, but at the same time, all the memories inside his head have become a part of him. Even though he has not lived them, he feels each of those memories as if he has lived them. All the hardships, loss, and happiness have become a part of him. A perfect fusion of an eternal soul and a powerful body. His eternal soul with unending will and tenacity, and his new body with a set of untainted morals and values have created a completely new person. Someone much better than either of his two different versions. Everything he has done till now, stepping up to save the people of this city, didn't feel foreign to him at all. Barry believes even without the influence of the memories of this life, he would have made the same choices. It feels great to be alive again. Barry opens his eyes and looks at his ceiling, feeling the power coursing through his veins. "And I am now a superhero," Barry says and chuckles excitedly. Speaking of memories, he remembers someone very important to Barry. Should I visit him? Will he notice the change in me? Of course he will. He is my dad. But I need to visit him. After all, I am finally on the path to prove his innocence, Barry says, and gets up from his bed and leaves to meet his dad. Iron Heights _ Barry arrives at the visitation room and sits down in front of the glass panel as he waits for his dad's arrival. His old man finally walks in and sits down behind the glass panel. He looks drained and his spirit burned. "Locked up inside a prison for 14 years for a crime you didn't commit will do this to you." But as this man sees his son, the life in his eyes returns. Barry is the only thing giving him the strength to endure this ordeal. Barry grabs the phone receiver on his side and so does his dad. "Hey, slugger," his dad says, looking at Barry. He observes his son and feels something has changed in him. Barry recalls the memories of his dad calling him a slugger. "You've been calling me that since I was 11, Barry says, making his dad chuckle. "The funny thing is, I got into a fight today." "You just got out of a coma." "I'm not sure you should be picking fights," Henry says, making Barry feel a little guilty. "Hey, did you win?" he asks. "Yeah, I did," Barry says, smiling, and Henry smiles back, seemingly proud of his boy. "You seem different," Henry says as his son sitting in front of him feels very different from his past self. "You noticed?" Barry says, looking back at Henry. He doesn't know what to say. "I am your dad. I might have missed you growing up, but I know you better than anyone else," Henry says. "That lightning that struck me. I don't know how to explain it, it changed me. I feel as if a certain part of me that has been missing all my life is finally whole again," Barry says. Henry smiles, seeing Barry look happy again. "Looks like the lightning was a gift in disguise. I like this new Barry, someone who is happy, ready to live life, and be not stuck in one place," Henry says, happy for his son. "You didn't kill Mom. You know I know that, right?" Barry asks. "You believing me is all I need," Henry says. "I think I finally have a way to prove your innocence. I will find whoever or whatever killed Mom and stop them," Barry promises. "Barry, we've talked about this. It's time to let it go. You have got to stop worrying about me, and live your life," Henry says. "I will. I missed out on a lot of things ever since Mom died, but I feel different now. I've made some great new friends, I can finally move forward. But that doesn't mean I will give up on finding the man responsible for Mom's death. I promise I will get you out of here," Barry says. Henry smiles and nods his head. For some reason, he believes his son this time. Barry has promised him many times that he will get him out, but this time, it feels different. "I love you, son," Henry says. "I love you too, Dad," Barry says and places his hand on the glass as tears roll down his eyes. The feelings he is having right now are not fake, as these feelings are what make him real. He wants to get his dad out of prison. Back at STAR Labs, Dr. Harrison Wells is inside his hidden room, back on his legs, as he reads the news headlines. "Flash saves the world from crisis." Even the name of the person writing the article is different. Why did the future change? What did I do wrong? Dr. Wells asks himself. Frustrated, he walks back and forth, racking his brain, retracing his steps, but he can't think of anything. What he doesn't know is that he did nothing. It's just the Omniverse decided to throw a massive wrench in his way. Well, it doesn't matter if the future has changed. My plan can still work. I will get back home, Harrison says, as his eyes glow red. Chapter 12, Angry but Cute. It's been a few weeks since Barry donned the red suit and he has been busy being a hero. "Barry, there's fire on Western and 3rd, downtown." Barry hears Cisco talk to him through the earpiece as he is on one of his runs again. On it, Barry says and picks up his speed. He speeds over 500 miles per hour running through the streets of Central City, leaving behind a red streak and white lightning. Barry sees a few fire trucks rushing toward the fire. Barry zooms past them in a blur. "What was that?" the firefighter driving the truck asks his partner. "I don't know." Barry arrives at the location and sees people frozen in panic as he is in super speed. Barry looks up at the building and sees it engulfed in flames as thick, black smoke covers the air above the building. "Are you there yet?" Sisko asks as Barry runs past the panicked people, creating a strong gust of wind, causing all of them to simultaneously turn to see what that was. Back at STAR Labs, Caitlin enters the cortex with a cup in her hand and hears Sisko talking to someone. "What are you doing?" she asks. Surprised, Sisko immediately turns off all the monitors and turns to look at her. With guilt written all over his face, he tries to quickly come up with something. "Nothing," is all that he could come up with as he puts his lollipop in his mouth. "Who were you talking to?" Caitlin asks. "No one," Sisko says, trying his best not to break. "Are you talking to Barry?" Caitlin asks. "Who?" Sisko asks. Clearly, his brain has stopped working to come up with such stupid questions. "Barry Allen? Struck by lightning? Was in a coma for 9 months? Woke up being able to run faster than the speed of sound? Ring a bell." Caitlin lists every detail, leaving Sisko no way to deny it. "No, haven't talked to him." Sisko decides to double down as being stupid in this situation is a lot easier. Barry enters the building and sees fire everywhere. "Sisko, there's fire everywhere." "Sisko, are you still there?" Barry tries talking to him, but he gets no response, as Sisko is currently not doing so well. Adding to his predicament, Caitlin hears Barry through the loudspeakers. He should have been using headphones. Getting no response from Sisko, Barry takes matters into his own hands. He moves instantly as he hears a cry for help. Entering super speed, he finds a little girl scared out of her mind, searching for her mother. Barry runs up to the little girl, grabs her, and runs her out of the burning building and runs in again. The little girl doesn't even realize what happened. One moment she is surrounded by fire and the very next moment she is outside. "Mommy!" she shouts, getting her desperate mother's attention, who is relieved to see her daughter safe. Barry starts zooming in and out of the burning building, carrying out one person every time he does it. People around the building are bewildered and shocked by the sudden appearance of all these people who were inside the burning building. The only thing they see is a blur of red going in and out, causing powerful gusts of wind. After checking every inch of the burning building and seeing no one has been left behind, Barry gets out of there in a blur before the firefighters even arrive at the scene. Getting far away from the scene, Barry stops behind an alley and talks to Sisko again. "Everybody's out. What else you got for me, Sisko?" Barry asks. "Barry, it's Caitlin," instead of Sisko, he hears Caitlin's voice. "Hey, Caitlin." Barry stresses, clearly caught in the act. It should be clear by now that Sisko and Barry are doing this all alone, without the entire team's knowledge. "How's your day?" Barry asks, trying to act as if nothing's going on. "Get back to STAR Labs. Now," she sounds angry. "Your wish is my command," Barry says and zooms back to STAR Labs. Barry enters STAR Labs and sees Sisko. As their eyes meet, Sisko motions his finger in front of his neck, gritting his teeth, and telling Barry that they are in trouble. "Where's Caitlin?" Barry mouths softly. Sisko then points behind him and looks to the side to avoid her chilling gaze. Barry slowly turns his back and finds Caitlin staring at him with chilling eyes and folded arms. "Have you both lost your minds? Who do you think you are?" Caitlin asks, clearly very frustrated by Barry's and Sisko's actions. "Well, I'm the eyes and ears, and he's the feet," Sisko says jokingly, trying to tone down her anger. "This isn't funny." You could have gotten yourself killed. You can't be running around the city like some supersonic fireman, Caitlin says, very angry at Barry. Why not? This is what we talked about, me using my powers to help people, Barry tries to reason with her. We talked about you helping us contain other people who might have been affected by the particle accelerator explosion. Meta-humans, Caitlin says, emphasizing the word meta-humans. And aside from Clyde Martin, we haven't found any, she says, frustrated by not making any progress at the front. I understand your concern, but if I didn't run into that burning building, those people trapped inside would have died. People in this city still need help, and we as a team can help them, Barry explains to her in a calm tone. Caitlin realizes that Barry is right, but she doesn't want to lose this argument. Will you please say something? So instead of fighting back with Barry, she asks for Dr. Wells's help, who just entered the room. Barry turns and sees Dr. Wells. I think what Caitlin is saying, in her own spectacularly angry way, is that we are just beginning to understand what your body is capable of. Not to sound like a broken record, Mr. Allen, I do caution restraint, Dr. Wells says. But I feel like I haven't even hit my limits. How else can we know what else I can do if I restrain myself? Barry asks. One step at a time, Mr. Allen, Dr. Wells says, and rolls away. Caitlin then gets in front of him and gives him her signature angry glare again. Don't expect me to patch you up every time you break something, she says and walks away. Barry can't help but smile, finding her anger cute. Here, Cisco walks up to him and hands him his phone, as it has been buzzing for a while now. Hey, Joe, everything all right? Barry picks up the call and speaks with Joe. Great, I got a fresh crime scene. A dead body. Detective interviewing witnesses. Miles of that yellow tape stretched over everything. I'm only missing one thing. Can you guess what that is? Joe asks sarcastically. I'll be right there, Barry says and hangs the call. Guys, I need to leave. My day job beckons, Barry says and zooms out. When do you think he will realize he didn't take his clothes? Dr. Wells asks. Underscore. Barry arrives at the crime scene, stopping at a corner, but before he walks in, he realizes that he is still wearing his red suit. Shit, I forgot my clothes, Barry says, but his eyes see a clothing store nearby. He zooms in, grabs a pair of clothes, undresses at super speed, puts on the new pair of clothes, stashes his suit away, places the money on the counter, and zooms out. Chapter 13, Award Ceremony. Perp made off with a bunch of handguns, at least 6 Glock 19s fitted with extra ammunition magazines. Somebody's looking to do a whole lot of bad, Joe explains to Captain Singh. Barry walks in wearing a long black coat, which still has a price tag on it that Joe notices. Doing a little fall shopping, Mr. Allen? Captain Singh asks as Joe rips the price tag and hands it over to Barry. Oh yeah, I was going so fast this morning, I didn't even notice, Barry says. Joe gives him the side eye and hands him over a pair of gloves. Barry takes the glove, puts it on, and goes under the yellow tapes to investigate. I downloaded the surveillance footage of the video camera. Eddie walks in and shows Joe and Captain Singh a video of a man shooting the victim dead. While Barry studies the crime scene. Looks like only one perp, Eddie says. Barry looks around, walking carefully, avoiding stepping foot on anything that may destroy the evidence. He immediately notices something and looks back at Joe. What is it, Barry? Joe asks. Footage may only show one, but it was 6 guys, Barry says as he recognizes the pattern in the tracks left behind. Look, the tracks. They're all crossing each other. 6 sets of footprints, 6 guns stolen, we should be looking for a crew, Barry says. He crouches down to get a better view and notices something strange. Hey! Weird. The shoes look like they're all the same size. Men's tens, I'd guess, Barry says. Good work Alan, Captain Singh says and walks away. Underscore 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 underscore. Barry and Joe return to the precinct. Where were you this morning? Joe asks. You know, running around, doing stuff. Barry says. What kind of stuff? Joe asks. Barry tries to think of something to get Joe off his back. I'm just dealing with a lot right now, Barry says. Look, I know you are. Believe me, I'm dealing with it, too. I've always had a very simple set of beliefs. Gravity makes things fall. Water makes things wet. And up till a few weeks ago, I believed the fastest man could run a mile in 4 minutes. Not 4 seconds, Joe says. I could do it much faster, Barry says and smiles, getting an annoyed look from Joe. Not that it matters. Barry says as the smile on his face fades. You haven't said anything to Iris about all this, have you? Joe asks. No, I promised you I wouldn't say a word to her about any of this, Barry says. Good, now get to your lab and start processing the evidence from the gun store, Joe instructs. Yes, Your Highness, Barry smiles and jogs away making Joe sigh. Underscore 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 underscore. Having super speed is awesome, as Barry gets all of his work done one after the other in an instant. This is all of your fault, Iris says storming into Barry's lab. I could have taken European folklore to cover my sociology requirement, but no. You said, take journalism, Iris. Reporters have all the fun. Guess what, Barry? Reporters have none of the fun. Journalism is boring. I'm bored. I blame you, Barry says, dumping all her frustration onto him. What's got you so grumpy, and why are you dressed up? Barry asks seeing Iris all dressed, ready to be somewhere. Did you forget? The university is giving Simon Stagg some big award this afternoon, and you agreed to explain the science stuff for your article. Barry completes her sentence as he recalls the promise he made Iris. I am sorry. It completely crossed my mind, Barry says. So, how fast can you get home and change? Iris asks. Pretty fast, Barry says. Hey Alan, another person walks in and this time it's Eddie. Joe asked me to see where you're at on the evidence from the gun store shooting. Oh, hey Iris, Eddie says looking at Iris. Detective, Iris acknowledges him, her face lights up seeing him. Barry smiles seeing Eddie put on his act. No, he didn't. You just wanted an excuse to come here and talk to Iris, Barry calls him out. Eddie gets embarrassed as Barry saw right through him. Iris can't help but chuckle while covering her mouth. Now that he has had his fun, Barry lets Eddie take a breather. I am just pulling your leg, and you guys can kiss already, Barry smiles and gives the lovebirds some space. Eddie approaches Iris and kisses her. Thanks for being so cool about this, Barry. I know it's not easy keeping a big secret, Eddie says. You won't believe how big of a secret I am keeping. I'm getting used to it, Barry thinks and smiles, shaking his head. It's not a big deal, but I think it's you guys that need to be careful. If Joe finds out, I am pretty sure he is going to come after you with a shotgun, Barry jokes making the smile on Eddie's face fade away. Don't worry babe, I won't let anything happen to you, Iris comforts Eddie. And Barry, stop messing with Eddie, Iris threatens. Barry lifts his hands up. I will leave you two alone. I need to go suit up for the award ceremony, Barry smiles and leaves. Eddie and Iris watch Barry leave. Don't you think Barry's changed a little, Eddie says to Iris. Now that you mention it, he does seem a lot more confident and happier, Iris says and she is glad to see it. Good for him, Eddie says and brings his attention back to Iris and begins kissing her again. Underscore 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 underscore. Once out of the precinct, Barry runs back to his apartment and puts on his suit and tie, and now he just needs to wait for the award ceremony to begin. So to pass the time, he turns on his console and begins playing some games. Now that he has super speed, he is now so much better at it. This feels like cheating. What am I saying? I am, of course, cheating. Barry smiles and continues playing. After a few quick game sessions, Barry returns to the precinct with his suit and tie / he then joins Iris and heads to the university. Underscore. Barry and Iris stand amongst a bunch of people as they listen to Simon Stagg as he is giving his speech after receiving his award. I find it quite remarkable, having once been a timid freshman at Central City University, to be standing before you now, the Regent's choice for Man of the Year. While I very much appreciate the award, the real honor for me is knowing that my work in organ transference helps give people a second chance at life. Thank you all very much for coming, he says, lifting the award before walking away from the podium. Back to Barry and Iris, Barry begins explaining the science behind Simon Stagg's work to Iris. All right, first things first. Simon Stagg's work in cellular cloning has led to huge advancements in the future of organ replacement, Barry says when a waiter comes over and hands them glasses of wine. Iris takes 2 glasses and passes one to Barry. Are journalists allowed to drink on the job? Iris asks. Okay. Barry takes the wine glasses out of her hands and puts them away. If you are bored already, just wait till we get to the science behind cellular regeneration, Barry says. I missed this, Barry. I feel like we haven't spent any quality time together since you woke up from the coma, Iris says. Yeah, I've had a crazy few weeks, I know, Barry says. I thought maybe you'd been avoiding me because of Eddie, Iris says. No, why would I avoid you because of Eddie? I think you both are great together, Barry says and smiles. I am glad to have such a great friend in my life, Iris says. Me too. Oh, Mr. Stagg, I was wondering if I could get a quote from you for my article, Iris asks as she sees Simon Stagg walk past them. Not now, miss, he says and leaves in a hurry. I will just make something up, Iris says when there are suddenly gunshots. Chapter 14, Finally Found One. Panic immediately breaks out and people crouch down. 6 men, covered from head to toe, enter waving their guns around. They immediately take down some security. Quiet down. All of you. One of them shouts, making the screaming women shut their mouths. How considerate. You're all wearing your finest jewelry. Almost like you knew we were coming to rob you. One of them says, waving his gun around. Now everybody line up. He orders. Barry watches and wonders if he should take action, but decides not to. No one is in immediate danger right now, so he shouldn't take any action and make things go out of control. The people do as they are told and make a line as one of the robbers starts collecting their precious jewels. The robbers get done collecting everything and are about to leave. A security guard runs in, pointing his gun at the robbers. Freeze, he shouts. The robbers turn around and all 6 of them point their guns toward the security guard. Drop your weapons, the security guard says, but instead of listening to him, all 6 of them shoot at him without hesitation. Barry sees the bullets leave the barrels of the gun and immediately enters super speed. He runs up to the security guard and drags him away before the bullets even travel half the distance. He leaves the security guard at the back exit and returns to his original position without anyone noticing. The robbers are confused when they see the security guard suddenly vanish, so they immediately turn and run with their stolen goods. Iris, call the police. I will follow them, Barry says. No, stay here, Iris tries to stop him. Don't worry, I won't confront them. I just want to identify their getaway vehicle, Barry says and follows after the robbers at normal speed, and just as he takes a turn, away from prying eyes, he enters super speed and immediately catches up to the robbers outside. They are all running in slow motion. Barry doesn't waste any time and immediately knocks all of them out, one punch each. They didn't even know what hit them. Now all 6 perps are on the ground. Barry decides to see who they are. Still, in super speed, Barry begins removing their masks. As he removes the second person's mask, he is shocked to see that it's the same face as the first person. He then removes the third perp's mask. It's the same person. He removes all 6 of their masks and they all are the same person. A meta-human, Barry says as he returns to normal speed. Suddenly the 6 clones in front of him start to decompose and turn into dust. This is a mind fuck, Barry says and goes back in as he hears police sirens. He runs in at a normal pace and sees Iris looking very worried for him. Iris, he calls for her. Barry, oh my god, I was so worried. Are you okay? She asks. I am fine, Barry reassures her. Did you get their runaway vehicle? She asks. No, they suddenly disappeared, Barry lies, as there is no way he is going to tell her that all 6 perps turned into decomposed dust after he knocked them all out at super speed. It's fine. I am just glad that you are safe, Iris says. Underscore 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 underscore. The police are all over the university building as they take statements from all the victims. Joe finds Barry and Iris standing in a corner and approaches them. You two okay? He asks. We are fine, Dad, Iris says. Joe then looks at Barry and mouths what happened while Iris's attention is away. I will tell you later, Barry mouths back. I thought I was dead. I saw the gun go off, and then boom. Suddenly I'm outside. I have no idea how I got there. Joe hears the security guard's statement and looks at Barry, knowing that he is responsible for saving the security guard. Let me talk to you for a second, Joe tells Barry when Eddie suddenly walks up to them. Joe, you need to see this, Eddie says. Joe looks at Barry and decides to postpone the talk. You too, Barry, Eddie says. Barry and Joe follow Eddie outside the university's side exit, where Barry knocked out the 6 perps. Joe looks at the scene and is confused. What's this? He asks. The perps left everything behind. The stolen jewelry, even their weapons, and a lot of dust. The weapons are the same ones stolen from the gun store this morning, Eddie says. Joe looks at Barry and approaches the scene. What do you think, Barry? Eddie asks. Barry needs to play along, so he puts on a pair of gloves and begins investigating the scene. The dust is shaped like people, 6 of them. It's like our 6 perps turned into dust, Barry says. How's that possible? Eddie asks. I don't know. Barry answers. Barry, a word, Joe says. Barry looks at him and nods. Barry and Joe walk away from the scene where there is no one around. What happened, Barry? Joe asks. Look, after those men were done robbing and tried to get away, I ran after them and knocked them out, Barry says. You did this to them? You killed them? Joe asks, shocked. What? No, let me finish, Barry says, calming Joe down. After I knocked them out, I removed their masks to check who they are. All of them were the same person, Joe, Barry says. What do you mean, all of them are the same? Joe asks, confused. They were some kind of clones, they all had the same exact face, Joe. Then the clone bodies began to decompose in an instant and turned into dust, and then I got out of there, Barry says. So you are saying? Yes, this person is just like me, a meta-human, Barry says. Meta-human? Joe asks. That's what the guys at STAR Labs call them, Barry says. This all is getting freakishly weird, Barry, Joe says. I know, Joe, Barry. Joe, there's a suspicious black van outside. We should check it out, Eddie says, approaching the two. Joe gives Barry a look before they both follow Eddie. Just like Eddie said, there is a suspicious black van, Barry immediately gets to work and starts looking around, and he finds evidence of someone being inside this van recently. He pulls off some fingerprints from the steering wheel and some hair strands and bags them as evidence. What did you find? Joe asks. There was one more person here recently. He must have fled on foot as soon as he found out the other 6 were incapacitated. I believe he is the real deal. The ones I knocked out must have been his clones, Barry says. Okay, now I need you to do something. No more heroics. Chasing bad guys is not your job. It's mine. You're not a cop. Promise me you will stay away from all of this, Joe says. Barry nods his head. Chapter 15, Another Meta-Human. Barry comes back to STAR Labs as the team needs to know about this meta-human that can create clones of himself. And he doesn't come empty-handed. He brings drinks with him as a certain someone is very angry at him. Barry walks into the cortex and finds Cisco and Dr. Wells talking. Mr. Allen, what do you have for us? Dr. Wells asks, seeing Barry. Coffee, he says, lifting the coffee carrier up in the air. Ooh, I was just craving for one, Cisco says and takes one from the carrier. Barry hands one over to Dr. Wells. Thank you, Mr. Allen, he says. Where's Caitlin? Barry asks. She is in medbay, Cisco says. Let me go get her. I have something for the team, Barry says and leaves. He walks in the medbay and sees Caitlin working on something. Hey, he calls for her, getting her attention. Caitlin turns around and looks at Barry before turning away, giving him the cold shoulder. Barry chuckles and approaches her. I'm sorry, Barry apologizes. Sorry for what? You didn't do anything wrong, Caitlin says snarkily. Barry smiles and takes a seat next to her. I am sorry for going behind your back and being careless out there. I was in the wrong doing so, but I promise I will be careful from this very moment, Barry says. Caitlin turns to look at him. She sees how genuine Barry is being. She can't stay angry at his handsome face. I know you worry about me, but these powers I have are not something I can keep to myself. The people of this city need it as much as we do. And with you by my side, we can help a lot of people, and you can keep me safe and stop me from making reckless decisions, Barry says with a smile. Caitlin can't even pretend to be mad after hearing Barry. She realizes just how much Barry cares for people, even if they are complete strangers. She has never met someone so selfless. Here, as an apology, Barry says and hands Caitlin the coffee in his hand. What's this? She asks. My special blend, I promise you will love it, Barry says smiling cheekily. Caitlin takes a sip of the coffee and looks at Barry, surprised. It's delicious, she says smiling. Barry can't help but be enamored by seeing Caitlin smile. She looks beautiful. Like I said, smiling really suits you, Barry says, staring into her eyes. Caitlin's heart skips a beat hearing Barry's compliment. She gets shy and looks away while brushing her hair behind her ear. Ah, I completely forgot. I have something to announce. Dr. Wells and Cisco are waiting for us. Barry remembers why he is here. He got completely distracted by Caitlin. Underscore. Barry and Caitlin arrive at the cortex. So Mr. Allen, now that the whole team is here, what is it that you want to say? Dr. Wells asks. I found another meta-human, Barry says, instantly getting everyone's attention in the room. And where did you see this meta-human, Mr. Allen? Dr. Wells asks. This morning, there was a robbery at a gun store. I figured out that 6 men were involved. The same 6 men tried to rob the people at Central City University this afternoon, Barry says. Tried? Caitlin asks. Yes, I managed to knock them all out before they even knew what hit them, and when I unmasked them, they were all the same man, Barry says. The same man, like clones? Cisco asks. Yes, All of them had the exact same face, and then the clone bodies decomposed in an instant, turning into dust, Barry says. There was also a seventh one, I believe, to be the Prime. He must have fled as soon as he felt the other 6 get knocked out. Do you know who this man is? Dr. Wells asks. Not yet, but soon. I have collected all the necessary evidence to identify the man, Barry says. Then you should get to identifying this man, Mr. Allen, Dr. Wells says. Will do, Barry says and is about to leave when Dr. Wells stops him. Wait, Mr. Allen, Barry stops and looks at him. How are you feeling recently? Dr. Wells asks. Never felt better, Barry says. Have you been experiencing any dizzy spells? Wells asks. None, Barry says shaking his head. Caitlin, Cisco, get the treadmill ready. I want to run some tests, Dr. Wells says. Is there really a need? I feel better than fine, Barry says. You have been using your powers a lot, Mr. Allen. I just want to make sure that everything is fine with you. It's better to always exercise caution, Dr. Wells says. Underscore. We're all set, Cisco says walking up to Barry as he is looking at boxes of cardboard placed on top of each other. A little padding. Just in case, Cisco says and walks into the observation area. Barry climbs up the large treadmill wondering if it can handle his speed. You're sure about this, Cisco? Barry asks. Most home treadmills have a maximum speed of about 12 miles per hour. This one has been Cisco'd. Trust me. It can handle your speed, he says, assuring Barry. Okay, Barry gives the signal, and the treadmill starts moving. Barry matches its pace, and soon his body is moving at extreme speed. The treadmill is holding up, just like Cisco said. Heart rate, blood pressure, nerve conduction all normal, Caitlin says seeing the readings. For Barry, Dr. Wells adds. Brainwave function within standard limits, Caitlin says. Hee, I told you, the treadmill could take it, Cisco says, proud of his invention. Caitlin, what about his glucose levels? Dr. Wells asks. It looks normal, Caitlin says. That's it, Mr. Allen, Dr. Wells stops the test. Barry slows down, gets off the treadmill, and walks out. So find anything? Barry asks. You are doing just fine, Mr. Allen, but tell me, how much have you been eating recently? Dr. Wells asks. The same amount as usual, though I never feel hungry or full no matter how much or less I eat, Barry says. I see. You should now focus on figuring out who this meta-human is, Mr. Allen, Dr. Wells says. Getting right to it, Barry says. Chapter 16, Another Fake. The team arrives back at the Cortex when they see a familiar face walk in. Detective West, what brings you to STAR Labs? Dr. Wells asks. Joe looks at Barry and points his finger at him. When I couldn't find you at your lab, I started doing a little research. Turns out there have been reports of a red and white streak around the city, stopping muggers, rescuing people from burning buildings, Joe says while giving Barry a burning stare. You didn't tell him we were working together? Dr. Wells asks. Barry shakes his head and looks at Joe. Joe, I can explain. You already have a job in law enforcement, Barry. I suggest you get back to it, Joe says. Detective, we all want what's best for Barry, Dr. Wells says trying to come to Barry's rescue. If you wanted what was best for Barry, you'd try to talk him out of this lunacy instead of encouraging him going out there risking his life, Joe says angrily. Joe, those people needed help. I couldn't just watch and do nothing, knowing that I could prevent something from going wrong, Barry says, trying to defend his actions. There are more people out there who are like me, Joe, Clyde Martin, the man at the university today, people who are beyond common sense, and we need to stop the ones who cause harm, Barry says. Are you insane? You think because you can run real fast, that you're invincible? You're not. You are just a kid. My kid, Joe says and then looks at Dr. Wells while saying my kid. Joe, I am not stopping. These people need help, the people of Central City need help, and I can help them. My team here can help them. If I can save someone from a burning building or stop some armed thieves, I'm gonna do it, so don't try stopping me, Barry says, getting a little serious. You think you're so smart? All of you. But you don't know what you don't know. And I hope that you're clever enough to figure it out before somebody gets killed, he says, pointing specifically at Barry and storms away. I am leaving as well. Meet you tomorrow, guys, Barry says and leaves as well. He needs to sort this out with Joe. Underscore. The next morning, Barry is at his lab processing the evidence he collected yesterday from the university and the van that was parked a little further away from it. Come to yell at me again? Barry asks as he sees Joe walk in. Simon Stagg's head of security was murdered last night. The coroner took some skin samples. Hopefully, they belong to the killer, Joe says handing Barry over some more evidence. See if you can find a match. Can't be a coincidence that Stagg's benefit was attacked last night, Barry says. I'm going to interview Stagg now, Joe says. I'll come with you, Barry says. Your job is in here, stay in here and do it, Joe says dismissing Barry. Hey Dad, Iris walks in. Hey baby. Gotta go, Joe greets her and walks away. Why is my dad mad at you? Iris asks. Work stuff, Barry answers. He then turns and sees that Iris, too, looks mad at him. Why are you mad at me? Barry asks, confused. You were supposed to meet me at Jitters, to give me some scientific background for my article, Iris says. Sighs and I didn't show up, Barry says. He completely forgot about it after he had his argument with Joe. And now I have to come up with a new article topic in 24 hours or I fail the assignment, Iris says. Iris, I am sore. Don't say that you're sorry. Okay, I know that you are. What I don't know is what is going on with you. We grew up one bedroom down from each other. Do you honestly think that I don't know when you are happy or sad or depressed or lost? I am gonna ask you one last time, Barry Allen, and you better be honest with me. What the hell is going on with you? Iris asks, annoyed. Luckily, Barry is saved from her questions when his computer starts beeping, getting their attention. We are not done talking about this, Iris says. Barry heeds her words no mind as his attention is on the result of his test. That's impossible. There was a murder last night. These skin cells belong to the murderer, but these cells are naive. Stem cells that they can replicate and become any cell the body needs. They only come from babies, Barry says. This means your killer is what, a newborn? Iris asks. Obviously not. How can a baby kill a full-grown man? This is something else, Barry says. And I think I know what, he thinks. I need to get this to Joe, Barry says. Underscore. Barry exits his lab and walks down to find the precinct in chaos. Officers are rushing out in a hurry. Captain, what's going on? Barry asks seeing Captain Singh putting on his bulletproof vest. Not now, Barry. Armed gunmen are shooting up Stagg Industries, Singh says, and leaves. Joe's there, Barry says and gets worried. He immediately returns to his lab to collect his suit. He puts it on and zooms out. Destination Stagg Industry. Underscore. Joe is currently taking cover behind barrels of metal as his shooters continue to get closer to him. Suddenly there is a gust of wind. A red and white streak runs past the shooters, taking away their guns before stopping next to Joe. "Joe, run," Barry says, looking at Joe. "No." Joe immediately rejects. With no other option, Barry grabs Joe and takes him away from the scene. Barry brings Joe outside the factory. Joe is surprised by the sudden change in scenery. He sees Barry in his red suit. Barry, way before he can say anything, Barry runs in and stops right before the three men. "Whoever you're, give yourself up. You don't need to make this hard on yourself," Barry says. "Sorry, we are not going anywhere, until Simon Stagg is dead." All three of them speak up. "Well, I'm not gonna let you, but just one more question. Are you three real or just clones?" Barry asks. "It's you. You were the one who stopped us yesterday," the one in the middle says. "Well, then you know I can stop you again, so be wise and surrender," Barry gives one last warning. "We will see about that," the one in the middle speaks again, making Barry believe that he is the Prime, so Barry immediately attacks him at super speed. He punches the one in the middle first and then shoulder tackles the other two before they could move even a single muscle. It really isn't fair to get in a fist fight with a speedster. The three of them are knocked out before they even know it. And once again, Barry watches the three bodies decompose and turn into dust. None of them were Prime. Barry immediately begins running around, trying to search every corner of this factory to see if Prime is anywhere around. But no, he can't find him. He is operating from somewhere else. Chapter 17, Believe in Me. With no luck finding Prime, Barry runs back and finds Joe, walking around, worried. "Joe," Barry stops in front of him, getting his attention. "Barry, are you okay?" Joe asks, grabbing Barry's shoulders. "I'm fine, Joe," Barry says. "Are you out of your mind? You could have been killed in there." Joe shouts at Barry. "Joe, calm down. He couldn't even see me coming. I am too fast for him," Barry says. "It doesn't matter. You shouldn't be doing this, Barry, running and chasing after bad guys. It's the police's job," Joe says. "Joe, you tell me, what would you have done if I didn't get here in time? Didn't you see what this man can do? He can create multiple clones of himself. Do you think the CCPD has enough men to take him on, a man who can create as many copies of himself? If this guy is left unchecked, soon he will flood the streets of Central City with copies of himself, terrorizing it. You tell me, Joe, how can normal people fight against him?" Barry asks, and Joe has no answer for Barry. He realizes Barry is right, and it took him almost losing his life to figure this out. "Joe, I understand you are worried about me, but the same can be said for me, too. I was terrified when I heard about the shooting and I didn't even hesitate for a second before running here. I don't want to lose more of my family," Barry says seriously. Joe tears up a little and hugs Barry. "We need to head to STAR Labs. They are the only ones capable of helping us to deal with this meta-human problem," Barry says. Joe looks at Barry and sighs. He knows Barry is right. He just saw what this meta-human could do. He thought he was going to die today. "Okay, let's go." "Because I can't think of anything else," Joe says. _______________________ STAR Labs. The team has gathered up alongside Joe and Barry as they look at the profile of the man that Barry just confronted at Stagg Industries. "You got blood on my suit," Cisco says as he tries cleaning it. "Not mine. Maybe you can run some tests on it, and see if you can figure something out," Barry says. Danton Black, he's a biogeneticist specialized in therapeutic cloning. "Growing new organs to replace failing ones," Dr. Wells says. "Apparently Stagg stole his research and then fired him," Caitlin says. "So he wants revenge. The attack at the university was meant to kill Stagg, and not some petty robbery," Joe says. "Stagg was already gone before Black arrived at the scene," Barry says. Black can control his duplicates from wherever he wants. How do we even find this guy? Barry asks. We don't know yet. The blood that you brought us might help, Caitlin says. You know, it's pretty ironic. The guy specialized in cloning and now he can make Xeroxes of himself, Cisco says. If he was experimenting on himself when he was exposed to the dark matter wave released by the article accelerator explosion, Dr. Wells theorizes when meet Captain Clone. Cisco finishes off his sentence, trying to come up with a name for our new supervillain. Barry and Caitlin give him a disappointed look for the stupid name he came up with. Feeling their disappointing gaze, Cisco's smile fades. Don't worry, I'll come up with something cooler, Cisco says. Once we find Danton Black, how do you plan to stop him? Joe asks. With Barry, Dr. Wells says. Barry has already shown that he can deal with Danton Black here twice. Twice has Barry gotten the upper hand. We just need to figure out a way to find the Prime, he finishes. Hearing that Barry is Wells's answer, Joe gets worried again. This is all too much for me. I need some space, Joe says and leaves. Barry watches Joe leave with pressed lips. He can't have Joe worrying about him every time he runs out to face off against one of these meta-humans. I should get to analyze Black's blood, Caitlin says and walks up to Barry. Don't worry, he just needs time to adjust to all these changes, Caitlin says, reassuring him and smiles at him before leaving the cortex. Barry nods. And I need to get all this blood off my suit, Cisco says and begins cleaning the red suit. Mr. Allen, we will continue this later, Dr. Wells says and rolls away in his wheelchair. Underscore 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 underscore. Barry tries to find Joe, but he is nowhere around STAR Labs. His car is gone. Barry then runs to Joe's house and finds it empty, so the only place he can be right now is the CCPD. Barry runs to the CCPD and finds Joe in his lab, staring at his crime board. You found my crime board, Barry says walking in. Joe turns to look at Barry and then back at the board. You know, Barry, right after your mother's death, you begged me to help your father. You were pretty convinced that your father was innocent, but I didn't believe your words back then. Turns out you were right, your father is innocent. Looks like I should start believing in you more than I have, Joe says. Barry smiles, approaches Joe, and sits down next to him. You are right, Joe. You need to believe in me because if you don't, I won't be able to do this superhero thing, Barry says and chuckles. You are one of the very few people in my life whose opinion matters to me more than anything. You are the man who kept me fed and in clothes. Who sat beside my bed at night until I fell asleep because I was afraid of the dark. Helped me with my homework. You taught me how to drive and shave. And you dropped me off at college. You were there for me at every moment of my life, watching over me. Though my dad was locked up in prison, you tried your best to never make me feel his absence. You are my second dad and I am glad to have you in my life. Your belief in me is the most important thing to me. So, if you want me to stay out of this, I will. Not until you tell me otherwise, Barry says. Joe tears up, even though he is trying his best to hold back his emotions. He puts his hand on Barry's shoulder and smiles. You sure have a way with your words, kid, Joe says, and they both chuckle. Well, I need to head to Jitters now. Iris needs my help for her article, Barry says and gets off his chair and zooms away, leaving behind a strong gust of wind. Still freaky, Joe says, Barry disappearing before his very eyes. Chapter 18, Homegrown Clone. Barry arrives at Jitters and walks in. He sees Iris with Eddie as they watch the news. The headlines read Hero Cop saves Stag CEO. Eddie is being shown giving an interview. Nice work, Eddie, Barry says, grabbing both Eddie and Iris's attention. Nah. Right place, right time. Also, couldn't have done it without Joe, Eddie says. No, you were a hero today, Barry says as Eddie did risk his life to keep the Stag CEO safe. CCPD still has a killer on the loose, Eddie says. I should get back to the precinct, Eddie says to Iris, kisses her, and leaves. So how does it feel dating a hero cop? Barry asks Iris, making her smile. Proud, happy, and many other things, Iris says. And what about you? Came here for caffeine, or you finally gonna tell me what's going on with you? Iris asks. Yay, about that. Why don't we sit down, eat, and drink as we talk about it, Barry says. Fine, take a seat. What do you want? Iris asks. I am starving, something big and delicious, Barry says. Something big and delicious, coming right up, Iris says and leaves to fetch some food for him. Underscore. First and foremost, I apologize for being distant lately, Barry says. I have been up to something lately, something very important, but this thing is taking up a lot of my time, which, of course, caused some friction with you and your dad. But I realized that I can't ignore the people in my life because of this thing. Especially my good friend, Miss Iris West, Barry says, making Iris smile. So now that I am here, do you need any help coming up with a new topic for your article? I found one, Iris immediately cuts him off. Something that actually interests me, Iris says and gets up from her chair to show him something. I know this is gonna sound crazy. It's been all over the internet this week. Iris says, showing him internet posts and news articles. At a building fire. At a bank heist. Even the other day those robbers shot at the security guard, he said he was whooshed outside. Something out there is saving people, Iris says. Aw shit, Joe's gonna kill me, Barry thinks. It does sound crazy, Barry says, trying to act clueless. Ever since I have known you, you have believed in the impossible. What if you were right? What if you were right about the night that your mom died? Iris asks. Iris catches Barry off guard by bringing up the matter regarding his dead mother. I don't know. Sometimes. Luckily for Barry, his phone buzzes, coming to his rescue. He looks at it and it is STAR Labs. Hey, what's up? Barry picks up the phone and turns away from Iris as he speaks into his phone. Barry, you need to get to STAR Labs. Right now, Caitlin says. She sounds extremely urgent. I'll be there, Barry says and ends the call. That thing I was telling you about, something happened. I need to go. Talk to you later, Barry says and runs out of jitters at normal speed, and when he is out of everyone's sight, he turns into a blur. Running past vehicles, leaving behind a trail of white lightning. Barry rushes into the lab and finds Black standing in front of Caitlin and Cisco. Barry immediately tackles him from behind and brings him to the ground. His sudden entrance and super speed tackle scare the living hell out of Caitlin. Barry, it's okay, she shouts, seeing Barry on top of Black. What? It's not okay. Why is Black here and why is he just not moving? Barry gets confused as he finds Black completely motionless beneath him, like a mannequin. Barry gets back to his feet and is immediately met by a slap to his arm by Caitlin. Ow, why? Barry asks. For scaring the hell out of me, Caitlin answers. I'm sorry, Barry apologizes and looks at the motionless Black. That's not him, is it? Barry turns to the team and asks. It's one of his replicates, Dr. Wells says. How did you get it? Barry asks. I grew him, Caitlin says with a smile on her face. You grew him? Barry asks, bewildered. I isolated a sample of Black's blood from your suit to see if I could trigger the in vitro cultivation process and learn how Black multiplies. So I exposed the target cells to a protein gel, and they began replicating into that, Caitlin explains, going full nerd. Did it come with clothes on? Barry asks, seeing that clone is dressed. Caitlin gives him an annoyed look for his questionable question and shakes her head. No, his cells have stored memory. It replicated to its most recent memory, Caitlin says. Makes sense. He was wearing the exact same thing last time, Barry says and waves his hand in front of the clone's face. Why isn't it doing anything? Barry asks. We did a brain scan. Involuntary motor functions are active, little else, Dr. Wells says. We think it's acting as a receiver, Cisco says. The clones are an empty shell without Black. Shut down the real Black, and you might shut them all down, Caitlin says. Well, to do that, we need to know which one's the real Danton Black. How do we know which one's real? Barry asks. Since these clones are but empty shells, Black will be under a lot of mental and physical strain controlling all of those clones. Look for the one showing signs of weakness or fatigue. He's the prime, Caitlin suggests. It's just a theory, but one you might want to put to the test, Mr. Allen, Dr. Wells says. But what if he's operating from a distance, like before? Barry asks. Next time, he won't. You have already stopped him twice. He will be desperate to succeed next time. You will have your chance to finally stop him, Mr. Allen, Dr. Wells says. Humph! The clone suddenly makes a movement, scaring Caitlin for the second time. She screams and Barry immediately holds onto her. Suddenly, 2 gunshots are heard, and the clone is put down, scaring Caitlin for the third time. Ah! Everyone turns to find Joe with his gun out and smoke coming off its barrel. Any more of them? Joe asks. Nope. Caitlin says with wide eyes. She is shaken up right now. Chapter 19, Against the Clones. Why did it start moving? Barry asks, as he too was surprised by the clone's sudden movement. Prime. My guess is that Prime is on the move. This one heard the summons to battle, Dr. Wells theorizes. And I know where he was summoned to, Joe says, putting his gun away. Stag Industries, he says. Barry looks at Joe and meets his eyes. What should I do, Joe? Barry asks. I believe in you, Barry. Martin, and now Black, this is beyond me, beyond what the police can handle. The only person it's not beyond is you. You gotta do this. So, for once in your life, do what I tell you to do. Go kick his ass, Joe says. Barry smiles and nods his head. Barry walks up to his superhero suit and puts it on at super speed before zooming out of STAR Labs. Underscore. Stag Industries underscore. Simon Stagg is working late when he suddenly hears gunshots outside. He immediately gets scared as he realizes that his killer is out to get him again. He makes a run for his life only to find his security personnel, all shot dead, and before their dead bodies stand 3 people looking exactly the same. Hello Danton, Simon says, looking at the 3 identical men. He would be surprised to see him like this if not for the gun being pointed at him. Goodbye Simon, Black says and pulls the trigger, but Barry is here. He zooms in and drags Simon Stagg away, back to his office. Stay here while I deal with him, Barry instructs and zooms away, bewildering Simon. Barry returns to where Black is and sees duplicates of him all over the place, all with guns in their hands. Black, I know Stagg stole your research, but that doesn't give you the right to murder. Barry tries to talk, but he doesn't have much hope. He tried this before and it didn't work. And just like he expected, Black and his clones open fire on him. Too bad for Black, Barry is way faster than bullets. Barry sees each bullet coming towards him in slow motion. He sighs and moves out of the bullets' trajectories. He then runs into every Black he can see, tackles and disarms them, but there are clones of Black everywhere. One of them approaches Barry, pointing his gun at him while Barry is trying to find the prime. You think this is about my job? He questions and tries to shoot, but Barry can't be touched. He immediately disarms the clone. But another clone is immediately behind him. This is about Elizabeth. She was my wife, Black says and shoots again, but it's futile. Barry knocks out another clone. This time, the clones are not turning into dust as Black is keeping his hold on them. She had a degenerative coronary disease. She'd been on the transplant list for years, but time was running out, so if I couldn't get her a new heart. Barry heard sentence after sentence from every clone before Barry took them out, but the numbers are still showing no sign of reducing. Where are you, Prime? Barry questions, looking around. He then thinks of something. I need to bring them all in together, Barry thinks and stops right in the middle of the lobby. You were gonna grow her one, Barry says, grabbing every clone's attention. I was so close until Stag stole my research, so he could reap the glory, and I got to bury my best friend. Now I'm alone, Stag says before all the clones begin vibrating and multiplying, creating more. Yes, come on, push yourself more, Barry thinks as he avoids every attack being thrown at him by these clones. He zooms around, tackling any clone in his way, sending them flying, only leaving behind a trail of lightning behind. More clones start to appear, but they are still not enough to even graze the fastest man alive. Barry runs through the hordes of clones, trying to find the Prime. And then he notices one, different from others. The only one breaking a sweat. Got you, Barry says with a smile and charges at him. In the blink of an eye, he arrives in front of the Prime. He grabs him and then drags him away at super speed and then smashes him against a wall, knocking him out cold. As soon as he goes down, the rest of the clones immediately begin ragdolling on top of each other. Barry! Barry, are you all right? Barry hears Joe's voice in his earpiece. I'm fine. I got him, it's done, Barry says, smiling victoriously as he looks outside the window at the beautiful city. He then sees Black getting up back to his feet in the reflection. Black tries to tackle him, but Barry is too fast. He moves to the side, causing Black to smash into the window and almost fall, but Barry is right here. He grabs the back of Black's vest and begins pulling him up. No! Let me go, Black shouts, trying to put an end to his life. You were wronged, Black, but you killed innocent people who had nothing to do with your wife's death. For that, you need to repent and be judged for your crimes, Barry says, yanking Black up and once again knocking him out. Guys, what do I do with him now? Barry asks, as he realizes that they have no place to hold him right now. He will be conscious soon and will start causing trouble again. Do we have a place to hold him? Barry asks. No, we don't. Cisco says as they realize that they have nothing to contain these meta-humans. The team looks at each other, clueless for the time being. What if I just run him into the precinct and lock him inside a jail cell? He shouldn't be able to break out, right? Barry suggests. Good idea, Mr. Allen, Dr. Wells says. Barry does just that. He grabs Black and immediately runs to CCPD. He then puts him inside an empty hold-up and locks it from outside before taking the key away with him, as he doesn't want someone to mistakenly release him. Chapter 20, Who's the Girl? Barry runs back to STAR Labs and is immediately greeted by smiling people. Ha ha ha, Barry, you were amazing out there, Joe says and gives Barry a tight hug. Barry smiles and hugs him. Dude, you handled this situation so easily, Cisco says, and dabs Barry. You did great, Caitlin says with her beautiful smile, which makes Barry smile. Great work, Mr. Allen, Dr. Wells says. Well, all thanks to you guys, Barry shares the credit with the team. Joe, here are the keys to the lockup, Barry says, handing over the keys to Joe. Why? Joe asks, raising his eyebrow. Well, I didn't want guys at CCPD to freak out finding Black locked in a hold-up out of nowhere and accidentally release him, Barry says and gives Joe an sorry smile. Joe sighs knowing that he is going to have a hard time explaining to the captain why a wanted perp has suddenly appeared inside their holdup out of nowhere, but it's still better than letting his men arrest Black because there is no way normal police can handle him. I need to head back to the precinct to deal with your mess, Joe says and leaves. Underscore. A few hours go by and the incident at Stag Industries is already headlines. Central City Police have managed to apprehend Danton Black, a former employee of Stag Industries who attempted to assassinate the CEO Simon Stagg. The team watches the news and finds nothing out of the ordinary. Looks like the police decided to keep the matters about Danton Black suddenly appearing inside their lockup hush-hush. After all, they don't want their reputation to be tarnished. He tried to kill himself, but I managed to save him, Barry says seeing the news. He didn't want to be saved, Dr. Wells says. Some people, when they break, they can't be put together again. Some people heal even stronger, Barry says showing the difference between his and Dr. Wells' mindset. Barry always looks for good in people. I hope so, Dr. Wells says. Well, at least multiplex won't be able to hurt anyone else, Cisco says emphasizing the word multiplex. Told you I'd come up with a cool name, he says, making the team smile. Alright guys, time for me to leave. Meet you tomorrow, Barry says and leaves. Underscore. Barry Allen, the fastest man alive, runs through the streets of Central City with his team right in his ears. The thrill of running faster than anything, watching the world zoom past you instantly, and the feeling of lightning coursing through every fiber of his being will never get old. Barry, an armored car was just hijacked on Griffin Avenue. Get your ass over there, he hears Caitlin's elated voice in his ear, warning him of another crime taking place. It sounds like everyone on the team is assimilating to the process and is experiencing the thrill of catching bad guys and saving the people of Central City. Underscore. With the red blur running around Central City saving people everywhere it goes, more people are finding out about him. There are thousands of posts on the internet about the red blur, but still, many people are skeptical. And one person is very keen to learn more about this red blur. Iris West. Barry and Iris just had their movie night where they watched an underwhelming zombie movie. On a regular movie scale it was a 7, maybe even a generous 8, but on a zombie movie scale, I will get it a 4, Barry says walking out of the theater with Iris. There's a zombie movie scale? Iris asks. Yup. Also, did you know that zombies exist in nature? There's this species of fungi that infect ants, causing the ants to attack plants that release spores which, in turn, infect new host ants. As Barry is explaining, he sees Iris smiling at his nerdy behavior. I am going full nerd, aren't I? Barry stops and questions. Yup, Iris says. Figures, Barry gives up, as Iris is not someone who would be interested in listening to his nerd talk. It's okay though, you are still the cutest nerd that I know. Which makes me question, why doesn't the cutest nerd I know have a girlfriend? Iris asks looking at him. I don't know. Barry says, but one girl does pop up in his mind. Come on, there must be someone you like, Iris insists. Well, there is this girl I met recently, Barry says. Oh, my god. Who is it? Iris asks, excited about the prospect of meeting this girl that Barry has taken a liking to. I don't know. Barry says wondering if he should tell Iris or not. Bartholomew Henry Allen, you will tell me who this girl is right here, right now. Iris gets all bossy. Ugh, fine. It's Caitlin, Barry says. Caitlin. The girl from STAR Labs. Iris asks. Yes, Barry says. Oh my god, she's so pretty and smart. You two would make a great couple. So, have you asked her out? Iris asks. What? No. It would feel weird to ask her out. She is, after all, my personal physician right now, Barry says, scratching the back of his head. Enough about me. What's going on with you? Barry asks. I'm currently more interested in the amazing as of late, Iris says. You still stuck on the streak thing? Barry asks. He's out there. People are talking about him, Iris says. How do you know he's even a he? Maybe it's a she, Barry says. It's a man, okay? You know I am really intuitive about this kind of stuff. Someone even posted a picture after being yanked from a car accident. It's a red blur leaving the scene. Iris says, taking out her phone and showing it to Barry. What Barry sees is an incoming call from Eddie. Barry smiles. Prince Charming, Barry says. Iris gives him a weird look and looks at her phone to see it's her boyfriend. She gives Barry the side eye and answers the call, turning away from him. Luckily, Barry doesn't have to wait for Iris as she gets all lovey-dovey on her phone with her boyfriend, as his phone begins ringing too. Hello, Barry answers the call. Code 237 on Wade Boulevard, Cisco says. Barry pulls back his head, confused by Cisco's words. Public indecency? Barry asks. Wait, I think I meant a 238, Cisco tries correcting himself. Dog leash violation? Barry asks, smiling. Bad man with a gun in a getaway car, go. Caitlin steps in and gives it as simple as possible. Barry looks at Iris and sees she's still busy, so Barry enters super speed and zooms away. He immediately finds the getaway vehicle being chased by a cop car. He calmly walks up to the getaway vehicle and looks inside. The perp is looking extremely agitated. He is also holding a gun right in his hand as he is driving, ready to shoot the moment the cops get close to him. Let me help you with that, Barry thinks as he takes the gun away. He then grabs the perp, pulls him out of the getaway car, walks him up to the police car, opens the back door, puts the perp inside, takes a handcuff from the officers up front, cuffs the perp's hand, closes the car door, puts the perp's gun in the officer's possession, and zooms away, doing all of that in an instant. And then returns to his exact position, right outside the theater like he never left. At the chase, the officers are confused by the perp's sudden disappearance from his car. Where'd he go? One of the officers asks when they hear someone behind them. They turn their heads and see the perp sitting in their back seat with his hands cuffed. What the they can't explain this shit. Eddie says hi, Iris says to Barry once her call ends. Let's go. Chapter 21, Poison Gas. Barry walks into CCPD with his usual coffee in hand and sees the two officers from last night bragging about their catch last night. Congratulations, Paulson, on that arrest last night. Hell of a job, Joe walks up to them, congratulating them for the work they put no effort into. You come by later, Joe, I'll give you a driving lesson, okay? Paulson says, trying to act cool. You know it was me who caught that perp last night, right? Barry asks Joe, smiling. I figured, Joe says, smiling. I just didn't realize you were helping people for the glory, Joe says, pulling his leg. Now that you mention it, I won't mind having a museum built in my name, Barry says jokingly. Yay, that's never gonna happen, Joe says. Crazier things have happened, Barry says. That you are right about, Joe says and laughs. Also, keeping what I can do a secret from everyone is getting hard, especially Iris. You know how relentless she is, Barry says. True that, but it is safer that way. Besides, me and you got work to do, Joe says, as they need to get to work on figuring out who killed Barry's mom. Underscore 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 underscore. Barry's lab. Joe and Barry are looking through the evidence from Barry's mom's case when Eddie walks in and calls them. Barry, Joe, we got multiple homicides. Do you know the Darbinian crime family? Eddie says. Let's go, Joe says, and the three make their way to the crime scene. Barry looks at the restaurant and remembers walking past it last night with Iris. Barry walks in and immediately begins noticing weird patterns. He puts on his gloves and gets to work. He goes through all the bodies and notices that all fell victim to exposure to poison gas. He then walks around the crime scene to find any other evidence, but finds none. After a while, Joe walks to him. "Barry? Anything?" Joe asks. "Signs of histotoxic hypoxia. The cells in their bodies could not utilize oxygen. It's consistent with exposure to poison gas," Barry explains. "What kind of poison?" Joe asks. "I'll need to take a lung sample, see if I can narrow it down," Barry says. "The only other exit was bolted from the inside," Eddie says, walking up to Joe. "They were trapped. I was thinking someone pumped gas in from the outside, but witnesses say the street was empty," Eddie says. Listening to Eddie's words and the weird positioning of the bodies, Barry comes up with his own theory. "So it was from the inside? That means there should be a canister, or a container left behind. The gas just didn't come in by itself," Joe says. "Unless it had a mind of its own," Barry speaks up and then laughs, trying to pass his comment as a joke. Joe turns and sees the look on Barry's face. He realizes that Barry might be hinting towards something else. "Eddie, would you mind canvassing again? Somebody had to have seen something suspicious," Joe says, making Eddie walk away. "Okay, explain," Joe turns to Barry. "The boss collapsed by the table. This guy made it 10 feet away. That guy had a chance to move off and fire 3 shots into the window, trying to break the glass. But they all started in the same spot, which means they should have been affected by the gas, but instead, it's as if they were attacked one by one," Joe says as he too begins seeing the pattern that Barry pointed out. Barry nods. "My gut feeling, if we're gonna solve this one, you and me are gonna need backup," Joe says. "Yeah," Barry agrees. They both arrive at STAR Labs and see the team are up to nothing. Joe and Barry's arrival finally brings some hope to their boring day. "Guys, we think we have found another meta," Barry says, immediately perking everyone up. "Barry believes our meta is someone who can control poison gas," Joe says. "Fascinating, a meta-human that can manipulate poison gas," Dr. Wells says. "Is it just poisonous gas or can he control all aerated substances?" Cisco asks. "And how is he able to formulate the connection? Is it physiological or psychological?" Caitlin joins in the discussion. Everyone trying to formulate a theory. "This individual can create a mental nexus using gaseous substances," Dr. Wells theorizes. "You mean connect with gases on a molecular level?" Cisco asks. "Yes," Dr. Wells says. "That is ridiculously cool." Cisco smiles with excitement. Seeing the team come up with a theory so soon, Joe gives Barry a weird look as he realizes that these people are far nerdier than Barry, which is a lot in his opinion. "They get really excited about this stuff," Barry says. "The only thing I'm excited about is putting criminals behind bars. Except Iron Heights isn't exactly equipped to handle meta-humans," Joe says. "Then I guess it's fortunate that Martin is dead and Black doesn't have the ability to break out of a regular cell," Dr. Wells says. "Well, unless we're planning on executing every supercriminal we stop, you geniuses are gonna have to come up with some place else to hold them," Joe says. "A meta-human prison," Cisco says. "Until we figure a way to remove their powers," Dr. Wells says. "I have been thinking about this ever since Barry caught Black. There is one place here that might hold them," Cisco says. Dr. Wells and Caitlin turn and look at Cisco because of his radical suggestion. "You can't be serious," Caitlin says. "I mean, we haven't been down there since it's cordoned off," Caitlin says. Barry notices that she is panicked by this idea. Cisco's right. "It could be modified to act as a makeshift prison," Dr. Wells says. "What could?" Barry asks, curious. The particle accelerator, Dr. Wells says. Underscore 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 underscore. A/N, I get all the complaints. The chapters are too similar to the show. But I am not changing how I write this fanfic. I have a plan in mind and I am sticking to that. This will be my last time addressing anything. If you like reading this fanfiction, read it. Do you love it? Support it. If you don't like it, don't read it. That's all I have to say. Peace. Chapter 22, Bestowing Power. Barry looks at Caitlin once again and sees that she is genuinely afraid. Her face becomes pale by just thinking about that night. Must be trauma from that day, Barry thinks and is worried for her. Let's go down the accelerator ring and check it out, Dr. Wells says. Caitlin, he calls for her, but she doesn't answer. She seems to be lost in her own head. Caitlin, he calls her again, this time getting her attention. Did you hear me? We're going down to the accelerator ring, Dr. Wells says. He still doesn't get an answer. Actually, Dr. Wells, I could use Caitlin's help identifying the poison gas. Barry comes to her rescue. Dr. Wells looks at him and nods. Okay, he says. If that's okay with you. Barry asks Caitlin. Let's go, Caitlin says, smiling at Barry. She is extremely glad that Barry stepped up for her. She gets up from her chair and grabs her coat before joining Barry as they walk out of STAR Labs. When they get outside, Barry stops and looks at Caitlin. What? She asks. Do you want to experience what it feels like to travel at super speed? Barry asks. What, now? I thought we were taking my car, Caitlin says. Cars are too slow. Come on, it will be fun. Plus, aren't you even a little curious about what it feels like? Barry asks. Caitlin looks at Barry, thinking it over, and finally gives in. Ever since she saw Barry run faster than humanly possible, she wanted to know what it felt like. Great, come closer, Barry says. Caitlin looks at him a little nervously and steps up close. Now put your hands around my neck, Barry instructs. Caitlin steps a little closer and wraps her hands around Barry's neck. Now their faces are right next to each other. Barry places his hand on her back and locks eyes with her. Caitlin gets a little flushed and her heart starts beating faster, having Barry's face so up close. Now I am going to lift you, get ready, Barry says and brings his other hand down, putting them behind her legs, and then he lifts her entirely off the ground in a princess carry. Ah! Caitlin yelps and tightens her hands around Barry's neck. Don't worry, I got you, Barry reassured her. Caitlin looks up at Barry's face and finds herself drawn to him. You ready? Barry asks. Caitlin takes a deep breath and nods her head. I'm ready, she says, letting out her breath. Barry smiles and enters super speed. The world around him slows down again. He looks down at Caitlin and sees her face frozen in anticipation. Too bad she can't experience super speed the way I do, Barry thinks. His power makes him see the world slow down when he moves fast, because not only does he have super speed, but he perceives times at super speed as well. A normal human can't do that. So Barry decides to keep his speed within human limits. Lightning flashes around Barry as he feels it coursing through his entire being, and then suddenly, something happens. Barry, he hears Caitlin call for him. Taken by surprise, Barry looks down at Caitlin and sees that she is moving along with him in super speed. Barry, what's going on? Caitlin asks as she sees the world around her frozen in place. She sees white lightning flashing around her and Barry. You are moving as fast as me. Barry says, bewildered. He didn't expect something like this to happen. How is this even possible? Caitlin asks, as she is fascinated by everything that is happening around her, or not happening around her. It's a little scary how they are the only ones moving right now. Is this what you see every time you run? Caitlin asks. Yes, it's cool, isn't it? Barry asks. How are you doing this? Caitlin asks. I don't know, I was thinking how you won't be able to experience the world the same way I do even if I run you as fast as possible, when suddenly this happened, Barry says. It's like you bestowed your powers on me. This opens up a whole new wormhole of possibilities. Are you the only one who can do this? Are there other metas who can bestow their powers onto others? Caitlin begins coming up with multiple theories. Hey, calm down, we can theorize all about it later. Let's head to my lab for now. So, you ready? Barry asks. Caitlin looks at the frozen world around her and nods her head with a smile. I'm ready. Barry smiles back and begins moving. Since Caitlin is somehow being influenced by his power, he doesn't have to hold back anymore. He runs and immediately breaks the sound barrier with Caitlin in his hands. Caitlin sees everything just zoom past her even though her perception of time has increased a lot from Barry's powers, but she still manages to see everything during those split seconds, the visual feelings being expressed on people's faces, the color of clothing they have on their body, moments caught in time that normal people never get to see. She even sees some bugs getting zapped by Barry's lighting and turning into dust as he runs into them. The feeling is exhilarating, and before she even knows it, they are at a back alley next to the CCPD. Barry stops, puts Caitlin down, and exits super speed. Caitlin returns to normal as well. As her foot touches the ground, she gets dizzy and almost falls, but Barry holds onto her by her waist. You okay? Barry asks. I'm fine. My body is not meant to handle super speed like yours, Caitlin concludes as she feels lightheaded. Once she regains her footing, she begins smiling from ear to ear with excitement. That was amazing, she says laughing as she looks at Barry. I know, right, Barry says smiling back. No wonder you run everywhere you go. It must be addicting, Caitlin says, staring into Barry's eyes. Yeah. Barry says staring back into hers. They look at each other in silence for a few seconds, almost lost amongst themselves. We should head to your lab, Caitlin suddenly speaks up, getting out of her trance and backing away a little, feeling a little embarrassed. Yeah. Let's go. Barry too comes back from his trance and is slightly embarrassed. Chapter 23, People Make Choices. Caitlin enters Barry's workplace and is fascinated to see the insides of the police station. Being a law-abiding woman all her life, she has never had to step foot inside this building. She is surprised seeing how busy the precinct gets, officers and workers moving around, busy, trying to get their work done. It's so hectic, Caitlin says looking around. It's a busy day, Barry answers. Wait here, I need to submit a report to my boss before we head up, Barry says zooming away and coming back in an instant, as if he never left. You weren't gone even for a second, Caitlin says. I'm glad super speed is now a thing, Barry says. Caitlin smiles and shakes her head. Mr. Allen, where the hell is the fiber analysis on the Orloff case? Captain Singh asks walking towards Barry. Right here, Barry hands him over the report in his hand. Singh is surprised to see Barry hand him the report on time. He then turns to look at Caitlin. Who's this? Captain Singh asks. AAA. Girlfriend. Barry blurts out, as it's the first thing that comes to his mind. Caitlin's eyes widen upon hearing Barry's answer. Even Captain Singh is surprised. He looks at Caitlin, who quickly recovers and smiles back at Captain Singh. I didn't know you had a life, Alan, Dr. Singh says, impressed by Barry's ability to find such a beautiful girlfriend. He then smacks Barry's shoulder with the report and walks back to his office. Once he is gone, Caitlin suddenly slaps his arm. Girlfriend. What were you thinking? She whispers while giving him her signature deathly stare. I'm sorry, it's the first thing that came to my mind, Barry says. You couldn't have said something else? Like a personal physician. Caitlin says as he follows Barry up the stairs of the precinct. Well now, that you mention it, it was obvious, Barry says. What are you going to say to him the next time he asks about me? Caitlin asks. I will just tell him that we broke up, no big deal, Barry suggests. Caitlin gives him a side eye and doesn't speak. They arrive at his lab and it's a mess. So this is your lab? Caitlin says looking around. And that's where I got hit by that lightning, Barry says, smiling. Caitlin continues to give him her deathly stare, which makes him wipe his smile off. Let's get to work, Barry suggests, seeing that Caitlin is still pretending to be mad at him. He can tell that she is not genuinely mad with his comment, but he doesn't want to take chances. They then immediately begin working on the poison sample that Barry collected from the dead bodies that morning. Barry and Caitlin work effortlessly with each other due to their knowledge in the field. As Caitlin is working on extracting the results of their tests, Barry can't help but stare at her. Suddenly images of a lightning storm start flashing in his mind and he sees a familiar yet not so familiar face inside the storm. Barry. Barry. Caitlin calls him, snapping Barry out of his trance. Yes. Barry questions and sits up straight in his chair. You were. I felt like you wanted to ask something, Caitlin says, brushing her hair behind her ear. She thought Barry got lost staring at her. Yay, I wanted to ask something, if you don't mind answering, Barry says. My least favorite kind of question, Caitlin says looking at Barry. Shoot, she says. You were pretty shaken up back at STAR Labs when Dr. Wells mentioned the particle accelerator. Can I know why? Barry asks. Caitlin looks at Barry and begins remembering the night of the particle accelerator once again. It's Ronnie. That night, he wasn't supposed to be there. He wasn't supposed to be there that night. He was just there for me. When the particle accelerator failed, Ronnie went down there to turn it off, manually. He trapped himself inside, to keep the explosion inside. Sometimes I can't help but blame myself. If he hadn't, Caitlin says and begins tearing up. Barry gets up from his chair and approaches her. He then brings her closer and hugs her as Caitlin rests her head on his chest. It's not your fault. Sometimes people need to make hard choices, and from the sound of it, Ronnie chose to save you and the people of Central City that night. In my eyes, he is a hero, Barry says, consoling her as Caitlin sheds her tears. Suddenly the computer starts beeping, indicating the results are done. Caitlin moves away from Barry and wipes her tears with her fingers. Here, Barry says, handing Caitlin the same handkerchief she gave to him a few weeks ago. I'm sorry for. It's okay, I understand how you feel. Losing someone you love is never easy. It will always be with you, Barry says, rubbing her shoulder. The results, they are done, Caitlin says, trying to move away from the conversation. This says that there was no residue of gas in the tissue, poisonous or otherwise, Caitlin says, reading the result. It must have evaporated. We'll need to get a fresh sample, Barry says. Wait, this can't be right. This says that there are two distinct strands of DNA inside the tissue, Caitlin says, bringing up the digital reading in Barry's computer. How did someone else's DNA get inside the victim's lungs? Barry asks, looking at her. Let me try if there is a DNA match in the database, Barry says, and runs the DNA found through the program, but the program couldn't find any. I don't understand. Why would a chemical attack leave behind another person's DNA inside the victim? Caitlin asks when Barry suddenly has an epiphany. Poisonous gas that can target people individually as if it has its own mind, foreign DNA found inside the victim's lungs. There can only be one possibility. What if this meta-human doesn't control gas? What if he becomes it? Barry presents his theory to Caitlin, who too starts connecting the dots. All available units, we have a report of a toxic gas attack at the Central City shopping mall. Barry and Caitlin hear the police radio inside the lab turn on. Barry immediately gets up from his chair and gets ready to run to the shopping mall. Barry, stop, we don't know enough about what we're facing yet, Caitlin says, trying to stop him. It's not safe, she says sternly and grabs his hand. Like I said, Caitlin, sometimes people need to make choices. Everything I choose to not do something, people will get hurt. I have to go, Barry says, staring sincerely into her eyes. He then adorns his red suit at super speed and zooms out of his lab, leaving a very concerned Caitlin behind. Chapter 24, Killing Tornado. On the run, Barry begins talking to Cisco. Cisco, update, Barry asks, pressing on his earpiece. According to witnesses, the gas attack was in the main elevator in the north wing, Cisco says. Got it, Barry says, and immediately shatters the sound barrier to reach there as fast as possible. Barry runs into the mall and quickly finds the woman who was attacked. He finds her already dead. Barry looks around among the sea of frozen people and sees a green color gas exiting through the fire exit. The gas is moving fast for it to be moving while Barry is tapped into his super speed. He immediately chases after the green cloud of gas. The gas begins to condense together and turns into a bald man. Barry immediately charges at the man, deciding to take him down before he begins questioning him, but to Barry's surprise, as he tries to tackle the man, he goes right past him while the man disperses into a cloud of gas. What? Barry is surprised. He stops and looks up to see a face forming inside the cloud of gas, smiling creepily down at Barry. Cisco, I can't get hold of this guy. What do I do? Barry asks. Hang on, let me think, Cisco says, trying to come up with something. Luckily for Barry, he has all the time in the world cause he is a speedster. The gas could form into a fist and tries to punch Barry, but he can easily see it coming from a mile away, and very slowly, he dodges and runs to the other side and stops. The cloud condenses again, turning into the bald man. Why did you kill that woman? Barry asks. She deserved to die. Now go run away. I still have one more name on my list. Don't make me add you to it, the man says, thinking he has become invincible ever since he got his powers. You got it all wrong here, buddy, you ain't going anywhere, Barry says. Let's see about that, the man says, and begins turning into gas again and starts filling up the whole corridor in his gaseous state. Cisco, I am still waiting, Barry asks Cisco for some way to capture this gas dude. I don't know, man. We have nothing on this guy. You should retreat for now, Cisco says. Cisco is right, Mr. Allen, get out of there before things get worse, Dr. Wells suggests. Well, it's already gotten worse, Barry says as he sees the gas approaching him. Barry can't run away now, by doing so he might be putting more people's lives at risk. And in this crucial moment, he thinks of something. Here goes nothing, Barry says, entering super speed. The world around him slows down. Even the large amount of gas that has almost filled up the corridor stops. Barry then spreads his arms and begins spinning in one place like a ballerina. Once he picks up his speed, he brings his hands together, increasing his speed further. Suddenly, all the air inside the corridor is sucked into a mini tornado that Barry has successfully conjured. The cloud of poison gas starts getting pulled into the tornado, but it isn't affecting Barry because he is inside it where air pressure is very low. The poison cloud man feels his entire being pulled into this tornado, causing him a lot of pain. He yells in pain. Even though he is in a gaseous state, his molecules are still connected. Getting sucked into this tornado will tear him apart. Barry continues to spin, and the speed of his rotation is getting faster. Lightning begins cracking around the mini tornado he has created. If not for the limited space that he is in, Barry would have easily created a tornado whose wind speeds would have far exceeded the F5 class. But why is Barry spinning so fast even though he doesn't need to? Well, he is not in control right now. His eyes have turned completely white and they are glowing as bright as the sun in the sky. White lightning is shooting out of them. Barry has tapped into the purest form of Speed Force. His true self. As for his consciousness, he finds himself back inside his lightning prison. I am back here. No. I can't get trapped here again. I need to go back, Barry shouts, and he suddenly regains consciousness again and gets back control over his body. He slows down and then stops spinning to find nothing around him as the mini tornado disperses. What have I done? Barry questions as realization dawns on him. He just killed a man. He spun so fast that the gas cloud man was forcefully pulled into his tornado and then pulled apart, molecule by molecule, until nothing remained of him. Barry. Barry. What happened? Barry hears Cisco's voice inside his ear. I think I just killed a man, Barry says, still in shock while Cisco and Dr. Wells go radio silence on him, not able to believe what he just said. Chapter 25, You Were Chosen to Be a Hero. Caitlin rushes into S.T.A.R. Lab's cortex and sees Barry sitting on a chair, looking down at the floor while clutching his head. Barry, are you okay? She approaches him, seeing him in such a state. She places her hand on his shoulder to get his attention, but he doesn't look up at her. What happened? Caitlin looks at Cisco and Dr. Wells, who don't know what to say. I killed him, Barry says without looking at her. Caitlin turns to look at Barry, unable to believe what she just heard. Barry, it was an accident, Dr. Wells says, grabbing Caitlin's attention. Can someone tell me what just happened? Caitlin yells. While Barry was fighting our evil meta, he lost control of his body while he was in the midst of a tornado he created to fight off the poison gas cloud. He spun too fast, creating a tornado strong enough to, Cisco says, separate the molecular bonds between the meta-human's molecules while he was in his unstable gaseous state. Caitlin finishes off his sentence. Barry, this is not your fault. You can't blame yourself for something you had no control over, Caitlin says, crouching down to meet Barry at eye level. He grabs Barry's face and makes him look at her. It's not your fault, she emphasizes heavily on every word. Barry doesn't know how to feel about this. He just wanted to save people with his powers, not kill them. What happens if he loses control again? What if he kills an innocent person next time? I need to think this all through, Barry says and disappears in a flash, leaving the team alone, worried. Caitlin especially is extremely worried for Barry right now. Ever since she met him, she had never seen him be so devastated. He always had a smile on his face, he was always positive, he always prioritized others over himself, and he was willing to do anything to help the people of this city and ask nothing in return. And he was especially there to make her smile and laugh again. Ever since the death of Ronnie, Barry is the only good thing that has happened to her. His arrival has made it possible for her to look forward to a new day with a smile on her face. So seeing that same man who always had a smile on his face, broken like this, made her feel extremely sad. We need to tell Joe, Caitlin says as she believes only someone very close to Barry can help him right now, and unfortunately, she is not that person. She can't be the emotional support and positive influence that Barry was for her during this past month, making her feel really guilty. Underscore. Barry returns to his apartment devastated. He doesn't know how to feel about what he did today. Even though he was not in control of his actions, his ideals and morals still make it hard for him to accept them. In the end, it is his body and his powers that caused this. Now he doesn't trust himself with it. What if he loses control again and gets trapped inside his lightning prison for much longer the next time he uses his power? It would be cataclysmic. Maybe I should give up, Barry thinks and closes his eyes. After a while, there is a knock at his door. Barry gets off his bed and opens it to find Joe. Joe, Barry says and lets Joe in. Joe enters his small apartment with heavy footsteps, as the talk they are about to have is heavy. Barry stays silent. He sits down on his couch staring at a wall. I heard what happened, Joe says sitting down next to Barry. You were right, Joe. I am no hero. I was getting way over my head. I thought I could do anything with my powers, Barry says. Joe looks at Barry and sees that he is devastated. I understand what you are going through, Joe says. I joined the police force to help people, to save them, no matter who they were. But reality hit me hard and made me understand that not everyone can be saved, and some don't deserve to be saved. There are people out there in this world who are nothing but evil. They cause unimaginable harm to people and their loved ones. And the man that died today is one of those people, Barry, Joe says, making Barry look at him. His name was Kyle Nimbus. He was a death row inmate who was being executed on the night of the explosion. He was a hitman for the Darbinian crime family. He had a lot of blood in his hand, Barry, men, women, even children. This man was supposed to be dead long ago, but since he survived, now more people are dead. He doesn't deserve to be saved, Joe says. Barry now feels even more conflicted. Should he be glad that a monster like Kyle Nimbus is finally gone from this world, or should he still feel bad for killing a man? How did you figure out it was him? Barry asks. Cisco found residues of hydrogen cyanide and sedatives on your suit, from which we were able to narrow down on Nimbus as he was being executed when the particle accelerator went off, Joe says. Silence follows and the two don't speak for a few minutes. Then why does it feel so shitty? This man was bad, very bad, but why do I feel like shit even though I caused his death by accident? Barry asks, looking at Joe. Because, Barry, you see the good in everyone. Even evil people like Nimbus. That's what makes you special. That's why you being the savior of this city is so special, because the people of this city know that they can always rely on you, no matter the odds, Joe says. Barry, the responsibility that you have taken upon yourself to be the savior of this city is a huge one. And trust me, this will not be the first time someone will die either directly by your hands or indirectly through your actions. And the only way you will be able to overcome this guilt that you are feeling is by knowing that every day, you are saving hundreds more people, giving them hope, and bringing joy to their lives. You were chosen to be a hero, Barry. Joe says. Chapter 26, The Speed Force. Barry finds comfort in Joe's words. He realizes what Joe is saying is right. If he allows himself to get consumed by guilt for killing an evil man, he will sooner or later get in his own way, which may lead to more innocent people getting hurt. But it's not just about Barry killing this man, it's also about his losing control over his power. What if it happens again? What if I lose control again, Joe? And what if the person who gets hurt is someone innocent? Barry asks. Isn't that why you have a team? Those guys at STAR Labs who are helping you learn about your powers better? If anyone can help you, it's them. When the people of this city need help, I know you will don your suit again and rush out to save them because that's who you are, but to do that, you need to learn how to control your powers fully, and for that, you need to head back to STAR Labs, Joe says. Barry rubs his face with his hand and stares at his walls. He nods his head. You are right. I need to be in control. I need to understand what happened to me out there, Barry says. Underscore. Back at STAR Labs, the team is again gathered to figure out what happened to Barry during his fight with the mist. That's what Cisco named him. Barry has his body probed with multiple wires while Caitlin draws some of his blood. She looks at him and he looks at her. They smile slightly at each other before Caitlin runs away to do some more tests. After a while, she comes back and looks at the team. There is nothing wrong with Barry. His body is in perfect condition. In fact, it's better than when he just woke up from his coma. His muscles, tissue, and bone density have all increased. His neurological system is also working better than before. It's like his body is evolving to keep up with his speed, Dr. Wells continues her words. So there is nothing wrong with Barry, physically or mentally? Joe asks. None that we could find, Caitlin says. Then what happened out there? Barry asks. Barry, tell me everything that happened since this very morning. Dr. Wells says. I woke up, went to work, then went to analyze the crime scene. After that I came here to STAR Labs to inform you guys about another meta, then I took Caitlin with me to my lab. Wait a minute. Barry stops. Caitlin, this morning, when I carried you to CCPD, my powers flowed into you, Barry says. Caitlin, what's Barry talking about? Dr. Wells asks. We don't know what happened, but I was able to move and perceive the world and time the same way Barry does. It's as if Barry could bestow his powers on me, Caitlin says. How is that possible? Cisco asks. This power of mine. I don't think it exists just because I am a meta. Barry says, grabbing everyone's attention. This lighting I generate when running helps me ignore physics and common sense. Begin able to move people around at super speed, my clothes staying intact no matter how fast I run. Being able to momentarily make people move and perceive time the same way I do. Barry says while looking at Caitlin. I believe this is all possible because I derive my powers from this different dimension of infinite power that might be alive. Barry's words hang in the room as the team tries to process what Barry just said. The Speed Force. Let's call it the Speed Force. Cisco chimes in excitedly, coming up with a cool name. It does explain a lot of things, Mr. Allen, but please continue with the rest of your day, Dr. Wells says. Then, after I brought Caitlin to my lab, we began working on the evidence, and then... Barry stops. Then what, Mr. Allen? Dr. Wells asks. I fall into a trance. I saw storms of lightning, Barry says. Is that why you spaced out? Caitlin asks. She thought Barry was just staring at her that time and now she feels embarrassed assuming it. Barry nods. Then I heard about the attack at the mall, so I got there to confront Nimbus. Barry says. During the fight, I found myself inside staring at the same lightning storm again, and when I regained back control over my body, the fight was over. Barry says, rubbing his face. After a long silence follows, Dr. Wells speaks up. I think this Speed Force is trying to communicate with you, Mr. Allen. Communicate? Barry asks. Yes, this morning at your lab, you fell into a trace. You saw the Speed Force, but you fell out of it. During your fight with Nimbus, when you were the most connected to the Speed Force because of your speed, you lost yourself in it for longer. I believe it's trying to tell you something. To not lose control again, you need to figure out what the Speed Force wants before it pulls you into it once again during one of your fights, Dr. Wells says. How do I do that? Barry asks. Maybe the next time you fall into one of these trances, try not to fight back, Dr. Wells suggests. Chapter 27, Kiss. After the revelation, Barry finds himself confused and clueless. The lightning prison he thought to be just the afterlife turned out to be much more. Though he gets his powers from it, he doesn't want to return to it ever again. He spent an eternity trapped inside that infinite dimension. The only reason he was able to keep his sanity inside was because he had a goal, chasing after the lightning ball. He was then thrown out of there, so he is wondering why it's calling him back. It is trying to re-imprison him? How should he deal with it? Hey, Caitlin finds Barry sitting alone as he is contemplating his thoughts. He turns to look at Caitlin and smiles at her. Hey, he says back. Caitlin sits down next to Barry and joins him in his brooding session. They both sit there silently. Not a word is being said, but having each other beside them is helping a lot. Suddenly Barry chuckles and begins laughing. What? Caitlin asks, wondering what is making Barry laugh again. I just recalled what happened at the precinct with Captain Singh, Barry says, laughing. Caitlin joins Barry and begins laughing until they finally stop. I wasn't as angry as I pretended back then, Caitlin says. I know. How can you be mad at this face? Barry jokes. Caitlin looks at Barry and smiles, seeing Barry is back to joking with her. Yes, how can I? Caitlin says. So, you seem to be doing good, right now. Caitlin says. Yes, Joe made me see things from a different perspective. He made me realize that I cannot drown myself with guilt if I want to continue being the hero this city needs, Barry says. Caitlin smiles, seeing Barry not blaming himself for Nimbus's death anymore. I am sorry. Caitlin apologizes out of nowhere. Barry looks confused. Why are you apologizing? Barry asks. When we started this team, I promised to be there for you in all situations, but today, when you needed me the most, I couldn't be there for you, like you have been there for me all this time, Caitlin says, feeling guilty. What are you talking about? Caitlin, you have always been there for me. Even before we even started saving the people of this city. You decided to stick around STAR Labs and look after me while I was in a coma instead of pursuing your career. You sacrificed so much for a man you didn't even know. You inspire confidence in me. Every time I run out to save people or fight metas, I know that you will be there for me and take care of me if anything happens to me. Never ever think once that I won't need you, Barry says, taking her hand and placing it on his. He interlocks his fingers with hers. This. Barry says, showing Caitlin their interlocked hands. We are a team, Barry says. Caitlin smiles and nods her head. Enough about me. Now it's your turn to confront your feelings, Barry says, looking into her eyes. I don't know. Caitlin says, avoiding his gaze. You know that you can trust me, right? Barry says. Yes, I know, Caitlin says. Then you know that I will be by your side just like you are by mine, Barry says. Caitlin nods as she begins pondering on how to say it. Your last words before you left to confront Nimbus. Those were the same words Ronnie said to me before he left me that night. Never to return. When you said those words to me, I thought I might lose you too, Caitlin says. Barry tightens his grip around Caitlin's hand and looks deep into her eyes. This life that I have chosen for myself, and gotten you guys involved in, is filled with danger, but it also comes with great responsibility. No matter the situation, if the people need me, I will have to go. But I promise you one thing, I will always come back, Barry says. Caitlin is overwhelmed with emotions hearing Barry's words. Promise? Caitlin asks. I promise, I will come back to you, Barry says, as senior as possible. They both stare into each other, getting lost in each other's eyes. Their emotions are heightened by their conversation, adding to the tension that has been building up between them from the very first day they began talking. They begin inching closer. Caitlin's heart starts beating rapidly, and so does Barry's. Now their lips hover inches away from each other. Caitlin closes her eyes and Barry takes his chance. He goes in for the kiss. Their lips touch. Barry carcasses her face and parts his lips. Caitlin follows suit, parting her lips as well, and kisses him back. Barry slides his hand behind her neck and takes control. The kiss gets more passionate and Barry begins involving his tongue. Caitlin welcomes his tongue with her own. The kiss gets intense. Barry and Caitlin lose themselves in each other, savoring this moment with their locked lips and their twirling tongues. After a few minutes, they finally separate, leaving behind a trail of saliva. Caitlin breathes heavily and presses her lips together. She then looks away, blushing as she didn't expect to get so carried away from that kiss. Barry smiles and looks away as well. He doesn't want to say something and ruin this moment. They sit next to each other in silence with their hands still interlocked. Chapter 28, Man on a Motorcycle. As Barry and Caitlin sit beside each other in silence, the kiss that took place between them felt so natural while they were doing it, but now that it's over and their emotions have calmed down a little, it's getting awkward. I think it's time, Caitlin suddenly speaks up. Barry turns to look at her. For so long, I've been terrified of going into that hole. But I think it's time for me to confront my fears as well, she says looking at Barry. Then I will go down there with you, Barry says, firmly holding onto her hand. Thank you, Caitlin says with a smile. The reason Caitlin built up the courage to go down the particle accelerator and control her fears is because she realizes she finally has someone she can lean on once again. Let's go, Barry says getting up while still holding onto her hand. Caitlin follows, and they head down to the particle accelerator. _____________. Caitlin and Barry arrive down at the particle accelerator and look at the massive metallic door. Caitlin begins recalling that night, the night when her fiancé locked himself behind that door to save the people of this city. She remembers begging him to find a way, but it was too late. The chain reaction was set off and it had to be redirected upward into the sky so that the city didn't get nuked. He saved so many lives that day, and no one will ever know what he did, Caitlin says, feeling tremendous sadness for the man that she used to love. I do, Cisco and Dr. Wells do too. Ronnie was a hero who decided to put the lives of the people of this city before his own, Barry says. I didn't want him to be a hero, Caitlin says and begins crying. Seeing this, Barry hugs her and lets her cry out her pain. _____________. Barry returns to his small apartment and ragdolls on his bed. Today was very eventful. Both good and bad. Bad, he accidentally killed a man, but after the talk with Joe, he has come to realize that sometimes he will need to make decisions that go against his morals for the sake of saving more. Good, he kissed Caitlin, and she kissed him back. Barry smiles as he recalls his kiss with her, and then his mind wanders off to other things. Especially the Speed Force. What does it want from him? Hasn't it had enough of trapping him inside it for eternity and making him lose all his memories of his previous life? He doesn't know what else it wants from him. Don't fight it, hey. Barry says as he repeats Dr. Wells' advice. Barry then closes his eyes and falls asleep. _______________________________________________________________________________________________________________ Harrison Wells is once again cooped up in his Time vault, staring in front of him. Flash saves the world from curses. He is getting really fast really quick. If he continues to grow at his current rate, my plan will come to fruition much faster than anticipated, he says walking around. He then looks at the yellow suit encased behind a glass cabinet. But it also poses a severe risk. What if he gets faster than me? By interfering with the timeline, I have made the Flash much faster. His connection to the Speed Force has also greatly increased, so much so that it's trying to call out for him, but why? He questions. I was naive back then. Thinking that changing the past would solve my problem, but no, it has made matters worse. I cannot afford to make mistakes now that the Flash is getting faster than my prediction. Every step needs to be taken with caution or I will lose my one chance of getting home, Wells says as he starts planning for the inevitable face-off with this new improved Flash. _____________________________________________________________________________________________________________________ It's not the same ceiling he saw when he closed his eyes last night. With a frown, Barry gets out of the bed and looks around. The room he is in also seems familiar, yet unfamiliar at the same time. Where am I? Barry murmurs, looking around. He looks at the wall and sees a picture. In it, he sees a man standing with a bunch of kids, and a very old granny. Everyone in the picture looks happy. The kids have genuine smiles on their faces. The granny smiles contently as she looks at the happy children and, finally, the man in the middle. He seems happy being there, and the children are happy being around him. When Barry looks at this man, he feels as if he knows him even though he has never seen him before. What is this place? Barry asks himself as he walks around. He finds more pictures of this man with more children and the same granny. Other than pictures of the man, he finds action figures and posters of the Flash and other heroes in the room. Barry finds a mirror and looks at it but sees only a blurred reflection. "What's going on?" Barry says and runs out of the house. He finds himself outside. The roads are completely devoid of people and there is an eerie silence. He can't even hear the sound of the wind. Standing all alone amid a city street, he finds familiar yet unfamiliar again. Barry begins running around, trying to find someone or something. He sees shops and stores that feel familiar, but he doesn't know why. He feels he has been in them but cannot recall a single moment being here. Barry returns outside the same house he came out of. He ran around the entire block trying to find something, but the city was completely empty. Suddenly, he hears the sound of a motorcycle coming towards him. He turns his head and sees a man covered from head to toe with riding gear on a red motorcycle drive past him. "Hey, stop!" Barry says and runs after him. With his super speed, he should be able to catch up to this guy on a motorcycle, but to his surprise, the guy on the motorcycle is just as fast as him. The motorcycle leaves behind a trail of white lightning similar to Barry when he runs. With determination to catch the motorcycle rider, Barry increases his running speed, and so does the rider. They both cover massive distances in an instant before the rider finally comes to a stop outside an old building. Barry stops and sees the rider get off his bike and walks in. "Hey, wait!" Barry says, but the man doesn't listen to him. Barry follows the man inside the old building. Barry recognizes this old building. It's the same one from the pictures he saw at the place he woke up in. Barry follows the man inside the old building and finds himself inside a room filled with beds. The man removes his helmet and puts it on the bed that is at the very corner next to the window. It's the same man from the picture. He finally turns and looks at Barry. Chapter 29, Recovering Memories. "Hello Barry," the man greets Barry. "Who are you?" Barry asks, but something deep inside him already knows who this person is. "Remember this place? Doesn't it bring back memories?" the man says. Barry looks around the room and it does feel familiar. "Where are we?" Barry asks. "Come on, Barry, you know this place better than anyone. You just have to remember," the man says. "This." Barry realizes something as he looks around. "This is a memory of my past life, the one I forgot," Barry says. "Bingo," the man says with a smile. "Why can't I remember anything?" Barry asks. "Well, you did spend an eternity trapped inside here. It's no surprise that memories that were only a couple of years old disappeared," the man says. Barry looks around again and sees flashes of lightning. "This is the Speed Force." "You are the Speed Force," Barry says, and he finally realizes that he is inside the Speed Force once again. "You said I was trapped here for almost an eternity? How's that even possible?" Barry asks. The Speed Force is an infinite dimension where time is irrelevant. It has existed before the birth of the universe. In fact, it existed before the birth and destruction of countless universe cycles. The Speed Force has no beginning and no end. "You have been here all along," the man says. "Why?" Barry asks. "To protect ourselves," the man says. "You just said that the Speed Force is infinitely powerful. Why do you need protection?" Barry asks. "From forces of greater infinities," the man says. "Greater infinities?" Barry questions. "No, two infinities are the same. Some are bigger and some are smaller. We, the Speed Force, are one of the greater infinities,"